Chapter 42:52. Lu Ming did not make a move. He placed his hands behind his back and waited calmly. Lu Ming did not speak. The two experts from the Sky Heart tribe naturally did not make a move. They stood beside Lu Ming calmly, as though they did not see the red-robed men. In their eyes, the red-robed men were like ants that could be killed easily. Naturally, they did not put them in their eyes. In just half a minute, several figures flew over. They were all red-robed men, and there were at least a dozen of them. The leader was an old man in a red robe. He was an old acquaintance of Lu Ming. Back then, he had captured Lu Ming and locked Lu Ming in the dungeon. These red-robed men were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived. "Brat, you still dare to come back." When the red-robed old man saw Lu Ming, he shouted angrily. His eyes were filled with anger. Because of Lu Ming, he had been severely punished by Commander Teng Ji. He hated Lu Ming to the core. Before Lu Ming came, Hao Lu had been locked up for many years without escaping. However, after Lu Ming came, Hao Lu escaped not long after. Commander Teng Ji thought that this had something to do with Lu Ming. Since he was the one who captured Lu Ming, he was naturally implicated. When he saw Lu Ming, the red-robed old man's anger exploded. Teng Ji did not come out. That's good too. I'll deal with you first before dealing with Teng Ji. Lu Ming said indifferently. What? Brat, I think you're courting death. The red-robed old man shouted angrily. Then he looked at the two experts from the Sky Heart tribe and his eyes narrowed. Previously, he had focused all his attention on Lu Ming and neglected the two experts from the Sky Heart tribe. Now that he looked at them, he immediately discovered the problem. His cultivation was much higher than the rest. When he looked at the two experts from the Sky Heart tribe, he instinctively felt danger. Although they did not release their auras, they still gave him a strong sense of pressure. In addition, since Lu Ming had already escaped, it was strange that he would return. Something's not right. It's a trap. The red-robed old man was shocked, and then he quickly retreated. However, it was already too late. At this moment, Lu Ming had already spoken. "Seniors, do it!" Lu Ming said. Whoosh! Whoosh! As soon as Lu Ming finished his words, the two powerful figures from the Sky Heart clan struck. Their figures flashed and turned into phantoms as they charged toward the red-robed men. Fast, too fast. It was so fast that these red-robed men couldn't dodge at all. Puff, puff, puff! The sound of sharp blades piercing flesh rang out. When the two experts from the Sky Heart race stopped, over 10 red-robed cultivators had been pierced through. Their souls had been annihilated. More than 10 red-robed men had fallen, including the red-robed old man. Go! Lu Ming did not even look at these people as he stepped forward. Soon, he leaped over a mountain, and the huge fighting stage appeared in front of Lu Ming. On the fighting stage, two figures were fighting fiercely. Above them, Commander Teng Ji was watching. As he watched, his eyes flickered with tyrannical radiance from time to time. During this period of time, he was very unhappy, extremely unhappy. Hao Lu had escaped, and he couldn't find a way to resist the heart flame, demonic fire. This made the negative emotions in his heart even more explosive and difficult to control. Therefore, during this period of time, he had to watch others fight every day to vent his emotions. If it wasn't for this, he would have gone crazy. Damn Hao Lu and that brat. Damn it. Damn it. Don't let me see you. I'll make you suffer the greatest pain in the world. Commander Teng Ji roared in his heart with a hideous expression. Suddenly, Commander Teng Ji sensed something. He looked up into the sky, and his eyes widened abruptly. He naturally saw Lu Ming. Unexpectedly, just as he thought of this brat appeared. Previously, the red-robed elder did not tell Commander Teng Ji that Lu Ming was here. The red-robed elder wanted to take down Lu Ming himself and apologized to Commander Teng Ji. Therefore, Commander Teng Ji did not know that Lu Ming was here. When he saw Lu Ming, he was stunned. "Brat, how dare you come back?" "Where's Hao Lu? Ask him to come out," Commander Tung Ji roared furiously. His body soared into the sky and charged towards Lu Ming. He stretched out his hand and wanted to grab Lu Ming. However, just as he was halfway there, his rapidly moving figure suddenly stopped. His pupils constricted rapidly, revealing a trace of fear, because he saw two experts from the Sky Heart tribe. His cultivation level was higher than the red-robed elders. He had reached the 7th heaven Emperor God realm. He realized that the aura of the two experts from the Sky Heart tribe was extremely terrifying. They were many times stronger than him. Terrifying, dangerous, not good. Commander Tung Ji could no longer care about Lu Ming, and he retreated rapidly. However, it was too late. One of the experts from the Sky Heart tribe had already attacked. His body flashed, and he appeared in front of Commander Tung Ji. "No! Spare my life!" Commander Tungsten let out an earth-shattering cry for mercy. His voice was filled with terror. However, Lu Ming would not let him go. The expert from the Sky Heart tribe attacked without hesitation. Commander Tung Ji roared furiously and used all his strength to resist. However, the difference between the 7th Heaven Emperor God Realm and the 9th Heaven Emperor God Realm was too great. No matter how he resisted, it was useless. A divine light flashed, and Commander Tung Ji's forehead was pierced. He died on the spot. Even at the moment of his death, his eyes were still wide open, filled with unwillingness and confusion. At that moment, the surrounding red-robed men were dumbfounded. Everything had happened too quickly. When Commander Tung Ji saw Lu Ming, he immediately attacked. However, he was killed halfway by the expert from the Sky Heart tribe. Everything had happened in an instant. In the hearts of the red-robed men, the extremely powerful Commander Tung Ji had been killed so easily. It was like a dream. "Run!" Suddenly, one of the red-robed men shouted and turned around to run. Even Commander Tung Ji had been killed so easily. Wouldn't they be courting death if they stayed behind? The other red-robed men also reacted and fled in all directions. Lu Ming did not ask the experts from the Sky Heart tribe to chase after them. His main target was Commander Tung Ji. As long as he killed Commander Tung Ji, it would be fine. As for the others, as long as they did not take the initiative to die, he would not care. Soon, all the red-robed men had run away. On the fighting stage, the two figures who were fighting stopped and looked at Lu Ming in a daze. They were extremely happy to see Commander Tung Ji being killed. However, there was a formation on the fighting stage, and they could not escape immediately. "Seniors, break the formation here and let the two of them out," Lu Ming said to the two experts from the Sky Heart tribe. The two experts from the Sky Heart tribe nodded and attacked. With their cultivation of the 9th Heaven Emperor God Realm, it was not difficult for them to break the formation on the fighting stage. It did not take them long to break the formation on the fighting stage. The two people on the fighting stage were overjoyed. They flew over and cupped their fists. "Thank you, young master, for saving us." Chapter 4253. You're welcome. We're all victims. Lu Ming smiled. The two of them thanked each other again before leaving the place. Afterward, Lu Ming led the two powerful figures from the Sky Heart clan into the dungeon and released all the living creatures that were imprisoned in the dungeon. Lu Ming also removed the seals on these prisoners. These prisoners were naturally grateful and left one after another. After settling this matter, Lu Ming and the two experts from the Sky Heart tribe left the place to meet up with Elder Xan Wu and head to the Sky Heart tribe together. They were still very far away from the Sky Heart tribe. They traveled continuously for 7 days before arriving at the territory of the Sky Heart tribe. The Sky Heart tribe occupied a vast area in the heavenly prison and thrived there. They wouldn't be corroded by the heart flame demon fire. Over the years, their numbers had multiplied greatly. However, there seemed to be some kind of seal or restriction in the Sky Prison. In the Sky Prison, one's cultivation could only reach the peak Emperor God realm before it was difficult to break through. Over the years, the Skyheart tribe had never produced a divine Lord Realm expert. Therefore, they wanted to break the seal and release the sealed divine Lord Realm experts of the Skyheart tribe. When Lu Ming arrived at the Skyheart tribe, he received a grand reception. Almost all the upper echelons of the Skyheart tribe were present to welcome Lu Ming. The Skyheart tribe was so powerful and prosperous in the past. How could they be willing to accept the fact that they had fallen to such a state? Now, Lu Ming had become their only savior. How could they not value him? Lu Ming rested in the Skyheart tribe for another 3 days. Then a big shot from the Skyheart tribe brought Lu Ming to the place where the seal was. This was a barren land guarded by a large number of experts from the Skyheart tribe. Outsiders couldn't get close. That is, Lu Ming's eyes narrowed the moment he arrived at this area. There was a shocking scene in the void in front of him. The void in front of him was shaking and twisting continuously like water ripples. However, there were huge chains in the void. These chains crisscrossed and covered the void. There were at least dozens of chains in the air. Dozens of chains had sealed off that area of the void. The power of these chains, Lu Ming sensed it carefully and was shocked. He discovered that the chains weren't real, but were made of energy. Lu Ming was very familiar with this kind of energy. It was very similar to the void destruction energy in the Heart Jade Devil Cave. This is the sealed place. We guessed that there used to be a passage here that led to the place where our divine master was trapped. Later, it was sealed by the Heavenly Palace. There are a total of 49 chains here. They are all formed by the power of void destruction. They are extremely terrifying. No matter how many experts we sent, we were unable to break through them. Instead, many of our people died. The Heart Jade Magic Cave's array formation was also imitated by our clan's array formation masters after studying these chains for a very long time. However, it is far inferior to the void annihilation power of these chains. At the side, Elder Exenwu explained to Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded. He had more or less guessed it. Little friend Mu Yin, we will have to rely on you for the rest. However, the void destruction energy of these chains is extremely terrifying. You must be careful. Another elder from the Skyheart clan said. This person was called Xian Fan, and he was the patriarch of the Skyheart clan. Patriarch, don't worry. I will do my best. Lu Ming nodded. If he could release the Divine Master Realm expert from the Skyheart clan, he was naturally willing. It was too difficult for him to escape from the heavenly prison with his own cultivation. It was almost impossible. Therefore, only by creating some chaos and uncertainty would he be able to escape. Releasing the Divine Master Realm expert from the Skyheart clan was to create uncertainty. On the surface, it looked like he was helping the Skyheart clan. However, he was also helping himself. Lu Ming observed for a while before he walked toward one of the chains. From afar, the chains didn't look big. However, when he got closer, he realized that the chains were extremely huge. Every chain was bigger than a vast mountain range. Lu Ming's size was like a speck of dust compared to the chains. Lu Ming slowly approached one of the chains. When he got closer, the chain emitted a terrifying fluctuation. A formless energy rushed toward Lu Ming. This energy was extremely terrifying. It was as though it could destroy everything. Its aura was very similar to the arc-shaped light that flew out from the Heart Jade Magic Cave. However, it was even more terrifying. After all, the arc-shaped light from the Heart Jade Magic Cave was created by the Skyheart clan to imitate the chains. The power of the imitation naturally couldn't be compared to the real thing. From afar, all the big shots from the Skyheart clan stared at Lu Ming. Their heartbeats quickened and their breathing quickened. They were anticipating and nervous at the same time. Although they had heard from Elder Exenwu that Lu Ming could break the Heart Jade Magic Cave's array, they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. Moreover, the energy of these chains was vast and boundless. They were many times more powerful than the array that they had set up. It was still unknown whether Lu Ming could break them. This concerned the fate of their clan. It would be strange if they weren't nervous. Lu Ming circulated his taboo energy and covered his body with it. He allowed the formless energy to rush over. Hoo-hoo! That energy was like a gale that blew past Lu Ming's body. However, when it got close to Lu Ming's body, it automatically moved aside. The taboo energy on Lu Ming's body directly cut off that energy. It's effective. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. As for the experts from the Sky Heart clan, their eyes lit up as well. They were delighted. Although Lu Ming hadn't officially started to break the chains, they knew very well that it was extremely dangerous to get close to the chains. The Sky Heart clan had paid a huge price in the past. However, Lu Ming was fine. This meant that there was hope. They had succeeded in the first step. Lu Ming continued to move forward and approached the chains. Formless void energy rushed towards Lu Ming from the chains. However, it was all blocked by the taboo energy. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at the bottom of the chain. What followed was the real beginning. Lu Ming needed to use the taboo energy to destroy the chains. Lu Ming stretched out his palm and circulated the taboo energy as he slowly approached the chains. Everyone from the Sky Heart clan felt their hearts rise to their throats. Whether or not it would be effective and whether or not it would succeed would depend on this move. Finally, Lu Ming's palm pressed against the chains. Boom! Lu Ming felt as though the chains had exploded. The berserk void energy rushed towards Lu Ming as though he had poked a hornet's nest. The entire chain was formed by the void energy. Once it exploded, it would be extremely terrifying. Lu Ming's face changed slightly as he released the taboo energy. Chapter 4254. Lu Ming unleashed his taboo energy and struck out. The taboo energy was like a pillar as it rushed towards the void annihilation energy. Boom! There was a loud bang. The force of void annihilation was penetrated and Lu Ming was unscathed. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The taboo energy was indeed able to break through the void annihilation energy. Let's continue then. Lu Ming placed his palm on the chain as the taboo energy surged out and struck the chain. The chain vibrated continuously as the void annihilation energy surged out. However, Lu Ming broke through it. The void annihilation energy here was stronger than the void annihilation energy in the Heart Jade Demon Cave. However, it couldn't harm Lu Ming. When the taboo energy surged out and broke through the void annihilation energy, it also refined a portion of the void annihilation energy. This way, the void annihilation energy on the chain would be reduced slightly. After a while, the area where Lu Ming's palm was placed on the chain dimmed. It's really effective. It's really effective. Seeing this scene, the Sky Heart tribe members were ecstatic. Previously, they were still worried that Lu Ming wouldn't be able to deal with the void annihilation energy. Now that they saw that Lu Ming was able to refine it, they could finally relax. As long as he could refine it, it didn't matter if the speed was slow. Over time, he would be able to refine it. Lu Ming continued to pour in his taboo energy. After a few hours, Lu Ming suddenly retreated and distanced himself from the chain. His taboo energy was almost depleted and he needed to replenish it. I reckon that it will take a long time. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. After a few hours, the chain had only been refined a little. He didn't know how long it would take to refine the void annihilation energy on the entire chain. Moreover, there were a total of 49 chains like this. He hoped that the people from the Heavenly Palace wouldn't discover it. Little brother Muyin, you've worked hard. Patriarch Xan Fan stepped forward with a smile on his face. He was so happy that he finally saw hope. I'm ashamed. My cultivation is too weak. I don't know how long it will take for me to refine it. Lu Ming said. It doesn't matter. My clan has waited for a long time, so it doesn't matter if we wait a little longer. Little brother Muyin, you should be exhausted, right? If you need anything to recover, just tell me. Xan Fan said. I need a treasure that contains pure energy, or a treasure that contains rich life force, Lu Ming said. That's easy. I have quite a lot here. If it's not enough, I'll immediately send a message back to get more for you, Xan Fan said. With a wave of his hand, one pitch-black crystal after another flew out towards Lu Ming. There were tens of thousands of them. Lu Ming waved his hand and put the crystals away. He then took out a piece and sensed it. He immediately discovered that the crystals did indeed contain an extremely pure energy. This energy was similar to the Elvenwood core, but the energy it contained was even denser than the Elvenwood core. This is really good stuff. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He then sat down cross-legged and began to absorb it. The energy in the crystal was absorbed and dispersed into every cell in his body. It was then converted into forbidden energy for Lu Ming to use. It didn't take long for Lu Ming to recover to his peak state. After recovering, Lu Ming continued to refine the chain. When his energy was exhausted, he returned to absorb the energy of the crystal to recover. Just like that, the cycle repeated itself. Time passed day by day. As time passed, the void annihilation energy on the chain grew dimmer and dimmer. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. Lu Ming spent a total of 10 years before he finally refined one of the chains completely. Phew, the progress is faster than I expected. Lu Ming breathed a sigh of relief. If he took 10 years to refine one chain, he would be able to refine all 49 chains in 490 years. What was 490 years to them? It was just a blink of an eye. After refining the first chain, he started to refine the second chain. It was worth mentioning that during this period, the Sky Heart tribe sent Lu Ming a large number of black crystals. There were hundreds of thousands of them to ensure that Lu Ming had sufficient energy. Lu Ming naturally kept them without hesitation. He knew very well that he did not need so many crystals to refine the 49 chains. However, Lu Ming had no intention of returning the extra crystals. The more such treasures, the better. Time passed quickly, year after year. Finally, after 490 years, the 49 chains were completely refined by Lu Ming. When the last chain disappeared, Lu Ming quickly retreated to the side of the expert from the Sky Heart tribe. Rumble. The void began to tremble violently. The void rippled like water. Suddenly, a black dot appeared in the middle of the void. This black dot seemed to have a great attractive force that sucked in everything around it. And this black dot was rapidly growing in size. Soon, the black turned into a huge black hole that was dozens of meters in diameter. Through the black hole, one could vaguely see that there were spots of starlight on the other side. However, they were very dim. Starlight? Could this hole lead to the chaotic universe? Lu Ming's heart was beating wildly. If it led directly to the chaotic universe, wouldn't he be able to escape directly? The eyes of the experts from the Sky Heart tribe lit up. Obviously, they had thought of this too. Could it lead directly to the chaotic universe? Someone whispered, "I'm not sure. Even if it doesn't lead to the chaotic universe, it should lead to the place where our divine master experts are imprisoned. This is a good thing for us." That's right. The passageway has been formed. Once it stabilizes, we'll immediately send someone to check it out. The experts from the Sky Heart tribe spoke one after another and decided on a plan. Everyone waited quietly. After about 3 days, the passageway stabilized completely. Holes that were 1,000 meters in diameter appeared in the air. "Patriarch, let's set off." Immediately, more than 10 people asked for permission. These people were the top experts from the Sky Heart tribe. All of them were peak emperor gods. "All right, be careful. If there's anything, report back immediately," Elder Xan Fan said. Then the experts from the Sky Heart tribe set off. They flew toward the black hole and disappeared within it. Everyone waited anxiously, especially the Sky Heart tribe. After spending countless years and exhausting countless efforts, would he be able to succeed this time? Although they guessed that the Divine Master experts from the Sky Heart tribe were imprisoned on the other side of the black hole, they weren't sure if it was true. Lu Ming was also filled with anticipation. In fact, he was more excited to see the chaotic universe on the other side. Then he could escape directly. This was because even if they released the Divine Master experts from the Sky Heart tribe, they would only have the hope of escaping. They might not be able to escape. Chapter 42:55. They did not have to wait for long. About half an hour later, some people flew over from the other side of the hole. They were the men from the Sky Heart tribe. However, at that moment, the dozen or so Sky Heart clan members all had terrified looks on their faces. Their faces were pale and they were covered in cold sweat. They flew over quickly as though they had encountered something terrifying. Clan leader Xian Fan and the others were nervous. They released their auras and were prepared for a big battle. They thought that there would be some terrifying existence coming from the other side of the black hole. However, when the men from the Sky Heart tribe arrived, there was nothing coming after them. What's going on? Why are you so terrified? What did you encounter? Clan leader Xian Fan shouted and asked the men from the Sky Heart tribe. However, he did not let his guard down and continued to stare at the black hole. Corpses! Terrifying corpses! One of the old men from the Sky Heart tribe said. He was an elder of the Sky Heart tribe and he was a peak emperor god. However, at this moment, he was terrified. Corpses? What's going on? Is there any danger over there? Did you find any divine masters? Elder Xian Fan asked a few questions. No, there is no danger over there, and no divine masters have been found. There are only corpses over there. A large number of corpses. Clan leader, you will know when you go over, the elder from the Sky Heart tribe said. The hearts of clan leader Xian Fan and the others sank. They did not see any divine masters from the Sky Heart tribe. Could it be that the divine masters from the Sky Heart tribe were not imprisoned over there? Since there is no danger, why don't we go over and take a look? Lu Ming said. All right, let's go over and take a look. Clan leader Xian Fan nodded. Only a few of them were left behind in case of an emergency. The rest of them flew towards the black hole, including Lu Ming. Lu Ming was also curious about the situation over there. Soon, they passed through the black hole and came to an unfamiliar region. It was indeed a starry sky with specks of starlight. However, when they looked into the distance, their faces changed drastically. Corpses. They were all corpses. There were corpses floating in the starry sky in front of them. These corpses belonged to various living beings, and they were huge. The small ones were the size of a mountain, while the large ones were the size of a planet or even bigger than a planet. That is, the corpse of a primordial divine spirit. When Lu Ming's gaze landed on the largest corpse, he couldn't help but exclaim. The corpse was even larger than a planet. Its fist was equivalent to a planet. Judging from its size, it was easy to tell that it was a primordial god. Only this primordial deity's head was gone, as if it had been chopped off by someone. Let's go and take a look. Xian Fan Patriarch suppressed the shock in his heart and said. Everyone nodded and flew forward. It did not take long for them to reach the large number of corpses. From afar, the corpses seemed to be packed together, but when they got closer, they realized that the corpses were separated from each other by a large distance. There was not a single trace of life. They were all dead. Some were split into two halves. Some had their heads chopped open, and some had their glabella pierced. All of them had been killed by terrifying means. Furthermore, each of the corpses was emitting a terrifying aura. It was so piercing that their skin felt like it was being cut apart. What terrifying auras! Could these corpses have all been divine masters when they were alive? Lu Ming muttered in a low voice. His voice was extremely solemn. Yes, divine masters. All of them were divine masters. Why are there so many corpses? What is going on? Xian Fan Patriarch said. His voice was trembling, and his face was filled with fear. There were too many corpses. At a glance, there were no less than 1,000 corpses. These were all Divine Master Realm experts. Anyone who saw over 1,000 Divine Master Realm experts' corpses at once would be terrified. These were Divine Masters, the pinnacle of combat strength in the universe. The more they looked, the more terrified they became. Was this a place where Divine Masters were buried? As for who did this, it was needless to say that it was the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace had actually slaughtered so many Divine Master Realm experts and buried them here. They suppressed the fear in their hearts and continued to look. There were all kinds of races. Lu Ming saw a gigantic divine dragon. The dragon's body was billions of miles long, and the aura it emitted was extremely terrifying. There was also a phoenix that was as big as a planet. Among them, there were some special races that Lu Ming had never heard of before. Can I take away the original divine spirit's corpse? Lu Ming suppressed the shock in his heart and started to think. These were all divine master corpses. It could be said that they were all priceless treasures, especially if there were any corpses of devil lords or fiend divine lords. Those would be of great use to bone devils. Lu Ming flew towards the original divine spirit's corpse. The original divine spirit's corpse was emitting a terrifying qi. That qi cut Lu Ming's body like a knife. Lu Ming circulated the taboo power with all his might to resist this aura. The original divine spirit had been dead for many years. Even though the qi was terrifying, it wasn't unstoppable. Ordinary cultivators of the 9th godly emperor layer wouldn't have been able to resist it. They would have been killed as soon as they got close. However, Lu Ming was much stronger than ordinary cultivators of the 9th godly emperor layer. He could resist that qi. After getting closer, Lu Ming looked at the corpse carefully. There's no blood. The blood has dried up. What should I do? Lu Ming frowned. The corpse was too big. It was impossible to carry it all away. His interspatial ring couldn't hold it. He could only get some blood and bones. But there wasn't any. Let's see if I can cut off some bones. Lu Ming took out a battle sword and slashed at the original divine spirit's body. But the sword bounced back. It didn't leave a single mark on the original divine spirit skin. Lu Ming tried again, but it didn't work. In the end, he gave up. When the Sky Heart clan saw Lu Ming's reaction, they were also tempted. They sent divine masters to take some materials back. However, even though they were peak great supreme gods, they couldn't do it. In the end, they came up empty-handed. Let's go to other places, said Xian Fan. They had come to look for the divine masters of the Sky Heart clan. Since they hadn't found any, they weren't willing to give up. They wanted to continue looking. They chose a direction and continued flying. Then they found more corpses. In the end, they found a few thousand corpses. They were all divine masters. It was terrifying. They were all divine masters' corpses. That's our divine masters, shouted an elder of the Sky Heart clan suddenly. Chapter 4256. That is our tribe's divine master, an elder from the Sky Heart tribe exclaimed. Everyone was shocked, and they immediately looked in a direction. Everyone from the Sky Heart tribe turned pale when they saw that direction. Their faces turned pale. There was indeed a member of the Sky Heart tribe there. However, it was a corpse. Just like the other corpses, it was floating there quietly, dead. Everyone from the Sky Heart race had pale faces. They had put in so much effort to find the divine master of the Sky Heart tribe and hoped that the divine master of the Sky Heart tribe would bring them out of this place. Was this the outcome? Their eyes were filled with despair. There is, another member of the Sky Heart tribe pointed into the distance and said with a trembling voice. Everyone looked over and saw another corpse of the Sky Heart tribe. Judging from its aura, it was also a divine master. Xian Fan and the rest turned even paler. Indeed, they found a few more corpses of the divine masters of the Sky Heart tribe. They had found 5 corpses in total. At that moment, Everyone from the Sky Heart tribe was filled with despair. There was no need to search anymore. It was obvious that the divine master of the Sky Heart tribe was dead. He was not trapped in a certain place. He had been killed. Despair filled their faces, especially Xan Fan and the rest. They looked as though they had aged countless years in an instant. Is our Sky Heart tribe destined to perish? Destined to be imprisoned in the sky prison forever? Clan leader Xan Fan sighed. Does clan leader Xan Fan want to give up? We might be able to find a way out here. Lu Ming said. His words lit up the eyes of clan leader Xan Fan and the rest. Yes, they had not given up hope yet. Although the divine master of the Sky Heart tribe was dead, it did not mean that they could not leave this place. Perhaps there was a way out of this place where the divine master was buried? They could not give up. Let's continue forward. Clan leader Xan Fan said. They immediately decided on a direction and continued forward. Slowly, the number of corpses floating in the air decreased. Not long after, their vision cleared up. There were no more corpses in front of them. It was a starry sky. The starry sky was empty and deep. They could not see the end of it. They looked hopeful as they continued forward. In front of them, they didn't see any more divine master corpses. However, this part of the starry sky was very strange. There were very few stars, and they could only see a few stars occasionally. They flew forward for several days and found nothing. It seems like this place is also a cage that buries the corpses of god lords. An elder of the Sky Heart race sighed. The last glimmer of hope in his eyes disappeared without a trace. It was the same for the other Sky Heart tribe members. Is there really no way out? Lu Ming's heart began to waver. No, as long as there's still a glimmer of hope, I can't give up. Lu Ming shook his head, and his gaze became firm again. Immediately, they continued their journey. Although the members of the Sky Heart race were in despair, they didn't want to give up just like that. In the blink of an eye, another few days passed. Look, that's a universe black hole. Suddenly, an elder from the Sky Heart race pointed to the front. Everyone looked over. Sure enough, an incomparably deep black hole had appeared in the starry sky ahead. It was incomparably huge, floating in the universe. There were no stars or substances in the surroundings. Not even light could be seen. A universe black hole. This was a true universe black hole. It had an incomparably terrifying attractive force that could suck in any matter, including light. Everyone's expression turned solemn. There was actually a universe black hole here. In the universe black holes were generally forbidden grounds. Even god emperors would find it hard to escape if they were trapped inside. Not to mention god emperors. Even some god lords would be in danger if they were trapped inside. Let's go around it. Don't go near it. Clan leader Xan Fan said. Everyone nodded and planned to go around it. Everyone flew to the side. Something's not right. Look, there's something in the universe black hole. Suddenly, someone shouted. At this moment, everyone's pupils contracted, because they had also noticed something. At the core of the universe black hole, there was light spreading out. The universe black hole that was said to be able to devour light actually had light spreading out. It was truly shocking. Everyone took a closer look, and their hearts beat wildly. It seemed to be a coffin, a golden coffin. In the universe black hole, there was actually a golden coffin floating. This was somewhat unbelievable. Who was buried in the coffin? It was actually emitting light, and people outside could see it. This place is not to be underestimated. Clan leader Xan Fan said solemnly. Indeed, it might be an important place in the Heavenly Palace. Let's take a look. An elder of the Sky Heart clan said. Everyone nodded and went around the universe black hole from afar. However, not long after, they saw another shocking scene, because they saw a second universe black hole. In this universe black hole, there was also light emitting out. They also saw something. There was a cage in this black hole. It was made of some kind of strange metal. Inside the cage, one could vaguely see a creature. It was extremely tall and sturdy, and it was incomparably huge. It was lying in the cage, motionless. These universe black holes, could they really be cages that trap some terrifying existence? An elder of the Skyheart clan said with a trembling voice. The rest did not speak, but their expressions were solemn. They also had the same guess in their hearts. Next, they continued to move forward and discovered a few more universe black holes. Without exception, there was something in every universe black hole. Some of them were cages, some were coffins, and some were even big boxes. They even saw a massive life form floating in the center of the universe's black hole. This life form's body was pierced through by chains, and the other end of the chains extended into the depths of the universe's black hole. It was unknown where it led. Terrifying, extremely terrifying. In every universe black hole, there was a high possibility that an extremely powerful being was trapped. These beings were definitely terrifying. Moreover, no one knew if they were dead or alive. No one knew how long these living beings had been trapped. Some of them might have already fallen. Forget it. It seems like this is also a cage that is of a higher level than the heavenly prison. It's impossible for us to get out. Let's give up. An elder of the Skyheart clan sighed. His eyes were filled with despair. The rest of the Skyheart clan, including the clan leader of the Skyheart clan, were similar. It was obvious that this was indeed a cage, a higher level cage. The heavenly prison imprisoned those below the almighty realm. However, this place imprisoned those above the almighty realm. Moreover, even if the almighty realm of the heavenly human tribe was still alive, they were trapped in the universe black hole. It was impossible for them to rescue them. Once they got close to the black hole, they would be devoured by the power of the black hole. Chapter 42:57. Let's go back. It's futile to continue searching. If we encounter the people from the heavenly palace, we won't even be able to preserve the last of our bloodline. Clan leader Xanfan sighed and made his decision. The other powerful figures from the Skyheart tribe nodded as well. They then turned and headed in the direction they came from. After flying for a while, Elder Xanfan stopped and turned to Lu Ming. Brother Muyin, aren't you leaving? Yes, Lu Ming had been standing there, and he didn't follow clan leader Xanfan and the others. Clan leader Xanfan, you guys go back first. I'll take a look around. Lu Ming said. He was still unwilling to give up and wanted to continue exploring. All right, be careful. I'll leave someone at the entrance to wait for you. Clan leader Xanfan said. Clan leader, don't worry. If anything happens to me, I won't say a word about the Skyheart tribe. Lu Ming said. Clan leader Xanfan and the others were relieved. They bade farewell to Lu Ming and flew back to the direction they came from. Soon, they disappeared from Lu Ming's sight. Lu Ming sized up the surroundings and then continued to fly in the direction that he had been heading earlier. Next, Lu Ming saw a few more universe black holes. Without exception, there were things in the universe black holes. To think that there are so many black holes in the universe here. It doesn't make sense for them to be so densely packed. Could it be that they were opened by the experts of the Heavenly Palace? Such combat strength is really incredible, Lu Ming thought. The strength of the Heavenly Palace was even more unfathomable. The universe black holes were terrifying. Even divine masters would be in danger if they entered. However, they were opened up and used to imprison criminals. It was shocking. The living beings in the universe black holes should be dead. There's no movement. After all, the living beings in the universe black holes had been trapped for many years. It was normal for them to die. Lu Ming didn't give up and continued to fly. Ah, that seems to be a human. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. In front of him, another cosmic black hole appeared. In the center of this cosmic black hole, there was a figure. This figure looked exactly the same as a human. He floated there, his hair disheveled. His body was bound by 8 chains, and the other end of the chains led to the depths of the universe's black hole. It was very strange. He was clearly in the black hole of the universe. The black hole of the universe could devour everything, including light. Moreover, this figure was extremely small compared to the black hole of the universe. However, Lu Ming could see this figure clearly. It was a marvelous feeling. It was as if this figure was emitting a marvelous light that allowed Lu Ming to see it clearly. This should be a human. There's no mistake about it. It's a pity that such a powerful being of the human race has died. Lu Ming shook his head and sighed inwardly. Just as he was about to go around the black hole and leave, his body suddenly stiffened. That's not right. Just now he seemed to have moved. Lu Ming's heart was beating wildly. He clearly saw the finger of the figure in the black hole twitch slightly. If it was an ordinary person, they might suspect that they were hallucinating. However, at Lu Ming's level, it was almost impossible for him to have hallucinations. He was 100% sure that the figure's finger did move just now. Could it be that this figure is still alive? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as a thought flashed across his mind. If the figure was still alive, perhaps he could learn some secrets of this place from him. As for rescuing the figure, sorry, Lu Ming didn't have that ability yet. Lu Ming's eyes widened as he stared at the figure in the cosmic black hole. After a while, the figure's finger twitched again. That's right, he was right. This person was definitely still alive. Lu Ming looked hopeful as he continued to watch. Next, the figure's finger twitched a few times in a row. Then his arm suddenly moved. Clang! The chains on his arm vibrated and came out of the black hole. Swish! After that, Lu Ming saw 2 dazzling rays of light emerge from the figure's messy hair. Those 2 rays of light were like divine swords that pierced through the darkness. It was dazzling. It came from the figure's eyes. So, it's a little boy of the 9th godly emperor layer. A deep voice came from the person's mouth, and it was filled with disappointment. Clang! The figure's body shook, and the chains around him rattled. He raised his head and revealed his face. He was very young, around 20 years old. He was very handsome. His eyes were filled with divine light. It seemed like sword lights were flying out of his eyes, as if they were going to pierce through the sky. That person's voice can come out. Lu Ming was surprised. The cosmic black hole could swallow everything, even light. Of course it could swallow sound. However, that person's voice could come out, as well as the sound of the chains. Lu Ming could only conclude that that person's cultivation level was too high. It was beyond common sense. My voice can't come out, whispered Lu Ming. His cultivation level wasn't that high. If he spoke, he would be swallowed by the cosmic black hole. Your voice can't come out, but I can hear it, whispered Lu Ming. The other person's voice came again. You can hear me? Lu Ming was delighted. He hastily cupped his fist and asked, Master, who are you? How come you're trapped here? Who am I? It's a long story. I'm curious, though. You're just a tiny cultivator of the 9th godly emperor layer. How come you're here? No, wait. Suddenly, the other party seemed to have discovered the sound. There was an even more dazzling glow in his eyes. He stared intently at Lu Ming, as though he wanted to see through all of Lu Ming's secrets. Forbidden strength. You can control forbidden strength. You have a forbidden body? A shocked voice sounded from that figure's mouth. Lu Ming frowned and said, How can you tell? He was really surprised. Forbidden strength was difficult to see on the surface. When he was in the heavenly palace, even the Lord of Heaven hadn't been able to see through it. But the person in front of him was separated by a cosmic black hole. They were so far apart, and he was trapped. How could he see that he controlled forbidden strength? Ha ha ha, don't be surprised. I'm very familiar with forbidden strength because my teacher has a forbidden body. How could I not see through it? Laughed the voice. What? Lu Ming was astonished. The other person's teacher had a forbidden body. Until now, Lu Ming only knew of 3 people with taboo bodies. One was Fei Huang. One was the leader of the ancient divine court. The other was Xian Yanqing's previous life, Tang Qing's father. Who was the other person's teacher? Was it one of them? Chapter 4258. Is your master Senior Fei Huang, the lord of the grand ancient divine court, or is his surname Tang? Lu Ming asked the question in his heart. Little guy, you know a lot at such a young age. To tell you the truth, my master's surname is Tang. The figure in the black hole said, his surname is really Tang. Is he really Shao Qing's father in her previous life? Many thoughts emerged in Lu Ming's mind. If it was true, then he had met one of his own. Senior, do you know Tang Jun and Tang Qing? Lu Ming asked. Tang Jun and Tang Qing are my master's daughters and my junior sisters. How can I not know them? It's a pity that they died in the battle back then. It's a pity that the heavens are jealous of geniuses. Their talent is much higher than mine. The man in the black hole sighed deeply and suddenly thought of something. He stared at Lu Ming and said, the 2 junior sisters have died countless years ago. How do you know their names? You said Senior Fei Huang just now. You know Senior Fei Huang. She told you, right? That Tang Qing and Tang Jun are not dead. They are still alive. Lu Ming said, still alive? How is that possible? They died in the battle back then. How can they still be alive? Kid, don't try to lie to me. The man in the black hole said, they did die in their previous life, but they reincarnated. Lu Ming said, ha, reincarnation? How is that possible? Who in the world can really reincarnate? No, did my master succeed? Yes, my master must have succeeded. The man in the black hole first muttered to himself, then laughed crazily. Senior, what I said is true. Tang Qing reincarnated as Xian Yanqing, and she is my wife, Lu Ming said. Your wife? The man in the black hole widened his eyes again. His eyes widened as he stared at Lu Ming. After a long while he guessed, you have a taboo body. You are worthy of junior sister. In that case, we are on the same side. I hope you didn't lie to me. Senior, I can swear that everything I said just now is true. Oh right, Junior is Lu Ming. How should I address Senior? Lu Ming said, since the other party was Xian Yanqing's senior brother in his previous life, then they were on the same side. Lu Ming naturally had no need to hide his name. Back then, people called me the 3rd demon sword. You can call me the 3rd demon sword. The man in the black hole said, the 3rd demon sword? What a strange name. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. No, the 2 junior sisters are fine. This is great. I must go out and meet them. The 3rd demon sword muttered to himself. At the same time, a powerful aura erupted from his body as he struggled with all his might. Clang! Clang! The chains began to shake violently, emitting violent vibrations. In the end, the 3rd demon sword couldn't break free. Damn it, my power has been sealed, and I'm far from my peak state. I can't get out at all. The 3rd demon sword roared. Then he looked at Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, you have a taboo body and are the husband of my junior sisters. We're on the same side. You have to help me get out of this black hole. As long as you help me leave this black hole, I can take you out of here. Hearing the 3rd demon sword's words, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. As long as the other party could escape, he could take him out of here. This made Lu Ming very tempted. However, he was immediately discouraged. The other party was in the universe's black hole. How could he help? Senior, you are in the universe's black hole. I can't help you at all. With my cultivation, once I step into the universe's black hole, I will be completely swallowed by the power of the universe's black hole. Lu Ming said, this is a problem. With your taboo power, you should be able to help me cut these chains but you can't come in at all." The third demon sword frowned and thought. After a while, the third demon sword said, "The main thing is that my power is too weak. If I can recover a part of my power, I can take you into the black hole. How can I help you recover a part of your power? I have some crystal stones here. I don't know if they can help." Lu Ming took out the crystal stones given to him by the Sky Heart clan. He had used half of them before, so there was still half left. "It's useless. This energy is too weak. It won't be of much use to me. If you want to help me recover my power, there is only one way." At this point, the third demon's sword stopped. "What way?" Lu Ming asked. "I am a sword cultivator. Around this starry sky, there should be many floating corpses and even some broken magic weapons. Among them, there are some sword-type magic weapons that will be of great use to me. If you can get me a few sword-type magic weapons for me to absorb, my power will recover a lot. However, this world can also be called a prison. It is patrolled by experts from the Heavenly Palace. If you encounter them, it will be very dangerous." The third demon sword Dao. "Broken magic weapons? Why haven't I seen them before?" Lu Ming was puzzled. He had only seen corpses and not broken magic weapons. "You came from that direction, right?" "There might not be any in that direction, but there should be in the opposite direction. If I remember correctly, there should be an ancient battlefield in that direction. There should be broken magic weapons floating there." The third demon sword explained. "Okay, I'll get you some broken sword-type magic weapons." Lu Ming nodded, his eyes resolute. If he wanted to leave this place, he had to take this risk. Otherwise, he would be imprisoned here for the rest of his life. How could he be willing to accept that? Moreover, even if he encountered experts from the Heavenly Palace, they might not kill him. If they killed him, how could the Heavenly Palace obtain the forbidden power? Therefore, he decided to take action. After asking for directions, Lu Ming flew in that direction. Next, Lu Ming passed by at least a dozen black holes. However, there was no movement in them. They were all very quiet, and he did not know whether they were dead or alive. Lu Ming ignored them and continued forward. Finally, he saw a large number of objects floating in the starry sky ahead. Broken stars, dilapidated palaces, corpses of experts, and broken magic weapons. This place really did look like an ancient battlefield. Sword-type magic weapons. Lu Ming looked around and began to look for sword-type magic weapons. Got it. Not long after, Lu Ming saw a battle sword. Only half of the sword was left, but it was enormous. It floated there for millions of miles. "It's so big. How can I take it away?" Lu Ming felt a headache coming on. He flew over and tried to put it into his storage ring, but he failed. "I can only push it over. I hope I won't be discovered." Lu Ming thought helplessly. This broken magic weapon must have been of a very high level before it was broken. Even now it was still emitting terrifying fluctuations. However, too many years had passed, and Lu Ming could still bear the remaining fluctuations. Chapter 4259. Lu Ming placed his palms on the back of the broken divine weapon and pushed it with all his might. Fortunately, this was the void and there were no obstacles. It was not too difficult to push it. He just needed to avoid the black holes in the universe. 2 days later, Lu Ming finally pushed the broken battle sword to the side of the black hole, where the third demon sword was. "Go!" Lu Ming pushed with all his might, and the broken battle sword flew into the black hole. Buzz! When the broken battle sword flew into the black hole, it seemed to be under great pressure, and the sword began to vibrate. However, this battle sword was obviously of a very high level, and its material was extraordinary. It was incomparably hard and successfully blocked the suction force of the black hole. Soon, the broken battle sword was not far from the third demon sword. Whoosh! The third demon sword opened its mouth and inhaled. A powerful suction force was generated and the broken battle sword flew quickly into its mouth. The sword that was originally 1,000,000 meters long quickly shrank and flew into the third demon sword's mouth and disappeared. The third demon sword's body swelled a little, but it disappeared immediately. A light flashed in its eyes and quickly disappeared. Not bad. This broken battle sword helped me recover a lot of strength. Unfortunately, it's not enough. If only I had 2 more of this type of battle sword. The third demon sword said, I'll continue to search. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and continued to head toward the previous battlefield. Very soon he returned there. There were many broken divine weapons here. Many of them were incomparably huge and emitted terrifying fluctuations. If only Qiuqiu was here, it would be great. Unfortunately, I can't take most of them away. Let's see if I can take some of the smaller ones. Lu Ming pondered and then began to search. He picked a very small divine weapon and activated the storage ring. This time, he successfully put away the broken divine weapon. This small one is really possible. I'll collect more. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Although this small divine weapon was not as extraordinary as the large ones, it was still not to be underestimated. It was definitely a rare treasure for Qiuqiu. In the end, Lu Ming collected over 100 small, broken divine weapons before he stopped. Then, Lu Ming found an incomparably huge broken sword and continued to push it towards the black hole where the third demon sword was. Nothing unusual happened along the way. When he returned to the black hole, he repeated the same trick and pushed the broken sword towards the third demon sword. After swallowing the third devil sword, Lu Ming returned to the battlefield. As long as there was another broken sword of the same level, it would be enough. Lu Ming continued his search. Suddenly, Lu Ming's pupils shrank because he sensed that there was a light shadow rapidly flying towards them from afar. Someone was coming. Lu Ming's heart raced. Those who could move freely here were most likely from the heavenly palace. Fortunately, the battlefield he was in was filled with huge corpses, broken divine weapons, and dilapidated palaces. Compared to them, he was as small as a speck of dust. The other party probably hadn't discovered him yet. However, he had to find a way to hide. When the other party got closer, they might discover him. What should I do? Where should I hide? Lu Ming's mind raced, and then his eyes swept across a huge corpse. It was a huge creature like a lion, but it had no hair on its body, only scales. That's it. Lu Ming flew directly towards the lion-like creature and then rushed into one of the scales. This kind of creature was too big, and a scale was incomparably huge, making it easy to hide. Roar! As soon as Lu Ming hid, he heard a roar. This is the sound of a dragon's roar. Is this the dragon clan? Why would there be a dragon clan here? Lu Ming was extremely surprised. The divine dragon clan was destroyed by the heavenly palace back then. Why would there be a dragon clan here? Could it be that they were also trapped here? And judging from the sound, the aura was extremely terrifying, as if it had reached the peak divine emperor realm. Lu Ming was very curious. He didn't dare to spread out his spiritual consciousness, but secretly stuck his head out to look. Outside there was a war chariot. He could see a golden-haired, middle-aged man sitting on the war chariot, obviously from the heavenly human clan. And in front of the war chariot, there were 9 divine dragons. These 9 divine dragons were used to pull the war chariot. Damn it! It seems that these 9 divine dragons were captured by the heavenly palace. They are all peak divine dragons, but they are used to pull the war chariot. What a great humiliation! Lu Ming thought to himself. However, he restrained his aura to the extreme. The war chariot was definitely very powerful and was definitely a divine master. If he was discovered by the other party, he would be in trouble. Fortunately, the other party didn't care. He just glanced at him casually and then drove the divine dragons away, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. However, Lu Ming didn't dare to relax and still hid in the scales waiting. After a full half an hour, Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. Of course, Lu Ming still didn't take action but continued to wait. There were indeed Heavenly Palace patrollers in this cage. More than an hour passed, and the Heavenly Palace patrollers didn't appear again. They should have gone far away. Lu Ming then began to move. He found a huge, broken divine sword, and then pushed it in the direction of the third demon sword. Along the way, Lu Ming's spirit was highly tensed. It was fine when he didn't see the Heavenly Palace patrollers, but now that he saw them, Lu Ming was much more nervous, and he was constantly on guard, afraid that they would suddenly appear. Fortunately, Lu Ming managed to bring the broken divine sword to the third demon sword without any mishap. "Senior, I just saw the Heavenly Palace patrollers. We have to speed up," Lu Ming said, and then pushed the huge broken divine sword into the black hole, and the third demon sword swallowed it. After the third demon sword swallowed the broken divine sword, a powerful aura suddenly burst out from its body, and its eyes shone with a terrifying sword chi. "My strength has recovered a lot, and it's enough to bring you in. Lu Ming, fly over," the third demon sword said. "Okay." Lu Ming didn't hesitate at all, and directly rushed into the black hole. This made the third demon sword's eyes flash with a hint of admiration. One must know that rushing into a black hole was very dangerous. If one was careless, there was a risk of death. However, Lu Ming was very decisive, without the slightest hesitation. This showed that Lu Ming was a decisive person, and the third demon sword admired this kind of character. As soon as Lu Ming rushed into the black hole, he felt a terrible suction force enveloping him, pulling him into the center of the black hole. At the same time, this force was very terrifying, as if it wanted to tear Lu Ming's body to pieces. Lu Ming found that with his current strength in front of this suction force, he was very small and insignificant. However, in the next moment, a gentle force surged and enveloped him. Suddenly, the suction force outside was blocked by this gentle force. Chapter 4260. A gentle force blocked the suction force of the universe's black hole. Lu Ming was safe and sound as he flew toward the center of the universe. Soon, he reached the side of the third demon sword. He could see that the third demon sword was very handsome. He was tall and sturdy, and there was a demonic look in his eyes. His body was shackled by 8 pitch-black chains. One of them was in his body, while the other extended into the depths of the universe's black hole. The energy of these chains seems to be similar to the void energy. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat when he saw this. When he got closer, he realized that these chains were also made of a kind of energy. It was very similar to the void energy, but many times more condensed. It looked like they were real. "You just need to cut off one of the chains, and I'll be able to escape. With your taboo energy, it shouldn't be difficult," the third demon sword said. "All right, I'll do it now," Lu Ming said. He felt a sense of urgency. He wanted to save the third demon sword as soon as possible. With the protection of the third demon sword, he did not have to worry about the suction force of the black hole. He stepped forward and formed a battle sword with his taboo energy. Then he slashed at one of the chains. Clang! The sound of metal colliding rang out. The chain vibrated and a mark appeared on it. "It's so hard, but it's effective." Lu Ming's eyes lit up. As long as it was effective, he would be able to cut it off sooner or later. The third demon sword's eyes also lit up. He had been trapped here for a long time. Now he finally saw hope of getting out. Clang, clang, clang. Lu Ming kept waving his sword and slashing at the chain. The chain kept vibrating and the mark became deeper and deeper, gradually sinking in. It seemed that it would not take long to cut it off. This was different from the chain that helped the Sky Heart tribe refine the entrance. That kind of chain was very thick, and it needed to be completely refined, which took a lot of time. Although this kind of chain was very solid, it was not thick. Furthermore, he only needed to cut it off, not refine it. Therefore, the time needed was much shorter. Just as Lu Ming was slashing at the chains, a dragon's roar resounded from the battlefield where Lu Ming had collected the broken divine weapons. With a flash of light, 9 divine dragons pulling a war chariot appeared. The person sitting on the war chariot was the heavenly human tribe expert that Lu Ming had seen before. At this moment, the heavenly human powerhouse frowned slightly. He scanned the battlefield and muttered, "I keep feeling that something is wrong. What exactly is wrong?" The celestial race stepped out, walked out of the war chariot, and began to patrol the nearby area. "No, it's broken divine weapons. There are fewer broken divine weapons." Suddenly, a low growl came from the heavenly human tribe powerhouse. This battlefield had existed for countless years. There were broken palaces, broken planets, corpses, and broken divine weapons everywhere. Therefore, the last time he came, he didn't pay much attention to it and left after a glance. However, after he left, he still felt that something was amiss. Thus, after walking around in a circle, he returned to this place and carefully observed it. Finally, he discovered something. Many broken divine weapons were missing. The broken divine weapons wouldn't run away on their own. Someone must have taken them away. There were only a few patrollers in this cage. He knew all of them very well. It couldn't have been them who took them away. Who exactly is it? Could it be that the existence in a black hole has escaped? But how is that possible? The heavenly human powerhouse pondered, but he couldn't figure it out. Spread the news first. I'll look around. No matter who it is, they won't have a good ending. The heavenly human powerhouse's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He sent a few messages through the illusory divine jade, then stepped out and landed on the war chariot. "Let's go!" The heavenly human powerhouse shouted. The 9 divine dragons roared, twisted their bodies, and flew into the distance. Clang, clang, clang. In the black hole where the 3rd demon sword was, Lu Ming continued to slash with all his might. After his continuous slashes, the chain was finally about to be cut off. Only a thin layer was left. Soon, the 3rd demon sword was excited and expectant. How many years had it been trapped? He couldn't even count. It had been at least a few dozen stellar years. It was a torture to be trapped alone in a black hole that never saw the light of day for such a long distance. Not many people in the world could withstand such torture. Many people would go crazy, but he had withstood it. Now he finally saw hope. He was finally going to be free. Oh no! Suddenly, the 3rd demon sword's expression changed. He looked into the distance. He heard the roar of a dragon. Then 9 divine dragons flew over quickly with a war chariot. The patrollers have been discovered. Lu Ming, you have to work harder. Otherwise, both of us will die, the 3rd demon sword said. It's that guy. Lu Ming also noticed the patrollers. His face was very serious. He forced out all the power in his body and slashed at the chain. Clang! Clang! The last layer of the chain was even thinner. It was about to break. The patrollers also noticed this scene. Shocking, murderous intent burst out of his eyes. "Kid, where did you come from? Do you want to die? Kill!" The patrollers shouted. They stood on the war chariot, holding a sky halberd. The power of heaven burst out, and the halberd slashed at the black hole. Suddenly, an incomparably huge halberd condensed and slashed at the center of the black hole. Its power was extremely terrifying. Even through the black hole, Lu Ming could feel the horror of this attack. This person's combat strength is so strong. He's definitely not an ordinary divine master. His combat strength is probably close to the level of the Lord of Heaven. Lu Ming thought in his mind. The battle sword in his hand did not stop slashing at all. In the blink of an eye, the huge halberd slashed at them. However, this was a black hole. No matter how strong this person was, his attack was still affected by the black hole. The closer he was to Lu Ming, the weaker his attack became. Sword whistle! The 3rd demon sword shouted and let out a long whistle. A black light spurted out of his mouth. This black light turned into a sword light. The sword light was shocking and flew out. Boom! The black sword light collided with the halberd, causing an earth-shattering explosion. However, the energy was quickly swallowed up by the black hole. The patroller's attack was blocked. The third demon sword's body swayed, shaking the chains and making clanging sounds. Lu Ming, work harder. This guy's cultivation is limited. A part of his attack was swallowed by the black hole. I can barely block it. If 1 or 2 more people come, we'll be finished. The third demon sword shouted. At the same time, he used all the power he could to resist. Unfortunately, he was sealed. He could only use a little of his power. In the face of such a situation, he was not very confident. I've already used all my strength. You have to hold on. Soon we'll succeed. Lu Ming shouted and continued to slash at the chains. Chapter 4261. You want to escape? Don't even think about it. Third demon sword. I didn't expect you to not give up after being locked up for so many years. Today I will kill you. The patrollers shouted and continued to attack. Huge halberds condensed and slashed at the third demon's sword and Lu Ming. He did not dare to rush into the black hole. The black hole was too dangerous. Even if he rushed in with his strength, it would be very dangerous. Moreover, his strength would drop sharply. At that time, it would not be the third demon's sword or Lu Ming who would die, but him. Only by attacking outside the black hole could he affect the third demon's sword. Then, when the other helpers arrived, the third demon's sword would be dead. Sword cry. Demon sword slays gods. The third demon sword roared. He could not move his hands and feet, but endless sword chi rushed out of his body and turned into terrifying sword light, colliding with the patroller's attack. However, the third demon's sword was having a hard time resisting. After all, he was sealed and the power he could use was limited. After a long time, his strength would not be enough. Moreover, the third demon's sword had to protect Lu Ming from being swallowed by the black hole. This also required a lot of power. His power was scattered, and he was even more vulnerable. At this moment, the gentle power that enveloped Lu Ming's body trembled. Lu Ming felt the suction force of the black hole seeping in bit by bit. His body felt like it was being cut by a knife. Soon, Lu Ming roared in his heart. Ignoring the pain, he crazily burst out with forbidden power and kept slashing. Buzz! Suddenly, the sound of a chain vibrating was heard. Broken! This chain was finally cut by Lu Ming. Lu Ming's eyes lit up, and the third demon's sword was even more ecstatic. The seal is no longer complete. Watch me break the seal and kill everyone. Ha ha ha! The third demon sword laughed crazily like a demon. Boom! A powerful aura burst out from his body. Even the black hole in the universe trembled. Lu Ming did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the black hole in the universe was somewhat distorted. Clang! Clang! The remaining 7 chains trembled violently, swaying and emitting unpleasant sounds. Outside the black hole, the patrolman's expression changed drastically. Fear flashed in the depths of his eyes. He was well aware of the third demon's sword strength. He was extremely terrifying. He was one of the taboo's proudest disciples. Countless people from the heavenly palace had died at his hands during the Great War. If the third demon's sword were to break free, he would be no match for the third demon's sword. He would probably be killed by the third demon's sword. However, he could not retreat at this moment. If he retreated, the heavenly palace would not let him off. Furthermore, the third demon's sword was still trapped. He might still have a chance. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared on the other side of the black hole. This was also a member of the celestial race. He was middle-aged and had a head of golden hair. He wore a purple-gold battle armor and had an incomparably powerful aura. The patrolman from before was overjoyed. His helper had arrived. The third demon's sword is about to break free. Let's go all out and kill him. The patrolman from before roared. Kill! The experts of the celestial race who came from behind shouted and directly attacked. Terrifying attacks shot towards the black hole. This person's combat strength was also incomparably terrifying. He was even stronger than the patrolman from before. Even among the divine masters, he was considered an expert. The patrolman from before also attacked with all his might. The combined power of the two experts was even more terrifying. However, the third demon sword's face revealed a ferocious expression. Terrifying sword light constantly rushed out from his body. These sword light converged into a huge demon sword and slashed horizontally. Bang! 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 The attacks of the two experts of the celestial race were directly split in half. They could not even get close to the third demon's sword and Lu Ming. The gentle power on Lu Ming's body became even stronger. The power of the universe's black hole could no longer affect him in the slightest. Break for me! The third demon sword roared. He waved his arms and shook his legs. His entire body twisted like a divine dragon. Bang! 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 The remaining 7 chains constantly vibrated and emitted a dazzling light. However, the 8 chains were a single entity. The power of the seal, combined with the power of the black hole, formed a complete seal. Now that one of the chains was broken, it was no longer complete. The sealing power was much weaker than before. Under the third demon sword struggle, the 7 chains shook violently. Crack! In the next moment, a cracking sound could be heard from the chains as cracks began to appear on them. Outside the black hole, the expressions of the two experts of the celestial race changed drastically. The third demon sword was about to break free. This is not good. If this continues, we are no match for him. This matter is no longer something we can solve. We have to inform Lord Heavenly Master. The patrolman from before said, I have already informed Lord Heavenly Master before I came. Let's hold on for a while. When Lord Heavenly Master arrives, the matter will naturally be resolved. The burly man from the celestial race in purple and gold armor behind him said, That's good. Kill. The patrolman from before shouted and continued to attack. An existence of the third demon sword's level was no longer something they could deal with. The only thing they could do now was to delay the third demon's sword as much as possible before he broke free. Once Lord Heavenly Master arrived, the third demon's sword would not be able to cause any trouble. However, the third demon's sword's aura was getting stronger and stronger. It was as if he had turned into a peerless demon sword. Every move and every part of his body had terrifying sword light rushing out. A casual attack could block the attacks of the two experts of the celestial race, and he used even more strength to break free from the seal. What powerful strength! What cultivation level is the third demon sword at? It seems to be comparable to the patriarch of the celestial race who attacked the primordial divine lake. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. The patriarch of the celestial race who captured him back then was earth-shattering and had left a deep impression on him. The third demon sword gave him the feeling that he was no weaker than the patriarch of the celestial race, and he was only Xian Yanqing's senior brother in his previous life. Then how strong was the taboo of Xian Yanqing's father in his previous life? Crack! Crack! More and more cracks appeared on the chains. In the end, they were densely packed together. Bang! In the next moment, one of the chains with the most cracks finally could not bear it and exploded with a bang. Boom! As the chain exploded, the third demon sword's aura became even stronger. It rushed out like a volcanic eruption. The chains could not bear it anymore. Bang! 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 The remaining 6 chains exploded one after another. In the blink of an eye, all the chains had exploded. The third demon sword had broken free. Swoosh! A terrifying sword light rushed out from his body, as if it was going to split the black hole open, causing the black hole to constantly distort. Oh no, he has broken free. Run! The patrolman's expression changed drastically. He turned around and tried to escape. It's too late to leave now. A cold voice came from the third demon sword's mouth. Chapter 4262. At this moment, the third demon sword's long hair was dancing in the wind. He was like a peerless beast that had just been released from its cage. He waved his hand and took Lu Ming with him. He took a step forward and broke through the suction force of the black hole. Kill! Immediately afterward, he slashed at the void with his bare hands. Two terrifying sword gleams slashed toward the two heavenly human powerhouses at an incredible speed. Anyway, given Lu Ming's eyesight, he could not see it clearly at all. Oh no! The two heavenly human powerhouses' faces changed. They realized that they had been locked on and could not escape. They could only fight with all their might. The two heavenly human powerhouses unleashed their full strength. They pushed their combat strength to the limit and attacked with their strongest attack. At the same time, they set up layers of defense on their bodies. There were at least 100 layers of defense, hoping to block the attack of the third demon sword. However, when the sword light of the third demon sword slashed down, their attacks and defenses were completely vulnerable. Puff! Puff! With a flash of sword light, the two heavenly human experts were split into two halves from the center of their eyebrows. Their eyes were still wide open, revealing a look of disbelief and unwillingness. However, their life auras had already disappeared without a trace. They were dead. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. The two experts of the heavenly human tribe were genuine divine master realm existences. Moreover, they were top experts in the divine master realm. Even if they were compared to the Lord of Heaven, they were not much weaker. However, in front of the third demon sword, they were as weak as babies. They were easily killed by the sword. Was this the strength of the third demon sword? It had definitely surpassed the divine master realm. Let's go. We need to find a weak point in the space and break through it to get out. The third demon sword said, Senior, let's take the 9 divine dragons with us. Lu Ming said, the divine dragon clan was already very weak. The 9 divine dragons were all peak emperor gods. If they were brought back to the dragon clan's mother planet, the dragon clan's strength would increase by a lot. Lu Ming had an affinity with dragons. He had a special feeling for the dragon race. If he could save them, he would do his best to save them. These 9 divine dragons have all reached the peak of the God Emperor realm. Furthermore, they have been honing themselves for many years. The chances of them becoming divine masters are pretty high. Bringing them out will also increase our strength. The third demon sword nodded and waved his hand. Several sword lights flew out and slashed at the 9 dragons. The bindings on their bodies were broken, and the 9 dragons regained their freedom. Once the 9 dragons regained their freedom, their bodies shrank and returned to the third demon's sword side. They turned into 9 middle-aged men and bowed to the third demon's sword. Thank you, Third Origin Venerate, for saving us. You're welcome. I was very familiar with A.O. Chien of your dragon clan back then. We're all family. The third devil sword Dao. Senior, there's one more thing. The people from the Sky Heart Race are trapped in the heavenly prison. Should we bring them along? Lu Ming asked. No, we're still in danger. If the heavenly venerates from the heavenly palace come, we won't be able to escape. We can't bring more people with us. Let's go first. The third demon sword shook his head and waved his hand. He brought Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons with him and broke through space. The third demon sword's speed was too fast. In a few flashes, a large number of black holes flashed past. In the next moment, they arrived in a part of the starry sky. The third demon sword's eyes were like lightning as he scanned his surroundings. The space here is relatively weak. I'm going to break the space here. The third demon sword attacked before he could finish his sentence. He stretched out a palm and clenched it in the void. Suddenly, The boundless energy in the surrounding area gathered in the third demon sword's hand and turned into a pitch-black demon sword. Whoosh! The third devil sword slashed out, causing the space in front of it to vibrate violently. The space trembled like water waves. The space here is really terrifying. No wonder it can be used as a prison for divine masters. Even those above the divine master realm are imprisoned here. It's unbelievably stable. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. In the primitive universe, with his cultivation, he could easily break open the space. However, with the third demon sword's cultivation, it was actually so difficult for him to break open the space here. This was the weakest point of the space, but the third demon sword's attack only caused ripples in the space. This showed how stable the space here was. Given the strength of the third demon sword, if it were in the primitive universe, it could easily cut a star river into two. It could even cut several star rivers and destroy countless stars. Break! The third demon sword shouted. His body surged with terrifying fluctuations. More sword lights formed and slashed at the void in front of him. The vibrations in the void ahead became even more intense, and the number of ripples increased as well. Slowly, a crack began to appear. Soon, at this rate, the space here would soon be completely connected and they would be able to leave. However, at this moment, the third demon sword's expression suddenly changed. He did not continue to attack the void in front of him. Instead, he suddenly turned around and slashed at the void in the distance. At this moment, a golden long spear suddenly appeared in the void and pierced toward Lu Ming and the others. However, the sword gleam of the third demon sword slashed out and slashed toward the long spear. Clang! With an earth-shattering boom, the long spear flew out and was caught by an old man. It was an elder from the heavenly human tribe. His hair was a little dry, but his body was still burly. He was not the heavenly human tribe ancestor that Lu Ming had met last time. This one was much younger. He was wearing a long golden robe, and a terrifying aura emanated from him. Heavenly Master! The Heavenly Master of the Heavenly Palace! A divine dragon at the peak of the divine emperor realm exclaimed, his face pale. Heavenly Master, is that a title? Lu Ming muttered to himself. Overgods, heavenly masters, and source venerables. The titles he had heard seemed to be for existences that surpassed the divine master realm. Lu Ming guessed that these titles were just titles for existences that surpassed the divine master realm. They were not the names of realms. Third demon sword, I did not expect you to be able to break out of the seal. This is really beyond my expectations. I originally wanted to suppress you to death and let you die in regret. But now it seems that I have no choice but to kill you. The heavenly master held the spear in his hand and stepped on the air. His robe fluttered in the wind, and his aura became more and more terrifying. Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons felt that it was difficult to breathe. Moreover, the third demon's sword had blocked most of the aura for them. Otherwise, they would have been reduced to ashes under this aura. I'm afraid you can't kill me alone, the third demon sword said coldly. The third demon sword said coldly. His aura continued to rise, and he seemed to have turned into a peerless demon sword. Chapter 42:63. The third demon's sword revealed its sharpness as if it had transformed into a peerless demon sword. Bang! The third demon sword took a step forward. The void beneath his feet shook violently as countless sword chi filled the air. At the same time, a huge sword condensed in his palm and slashed down at the heavenly palace's heavenly venerate. The sword instantly traversed hundreds of millions of miles of void and slashed at the heavenly venerate. Heavenly annihilation. The heavenly venerate said coldly. The long spear in his hand continued to spin like a drill. A wisp of gray energy burst out from the center of the long spear. As the long spear spun, the gray energy expanded rapidly. It rushed toward the third demon sword like a gray fog. The gray, fog-like energy was extremely terrifying. Wherever it passed, the void seemed to be corroded. Boom! The third demon sword's attack collided with the heavenly venerate's attack. The sword light from the third demon sword vibrated continuously as traces of corrosion appeared on its surface. In the end, the sword light exploded with a loud bang. The gray fog was one of the 4 strongest heavenly powers of the heavenly human tribe, the heavenly annihilation energy. The heavenly annihilation energy was said to be able to obliterate everything. It was filled with destructive power and was extremely terrifying. However, the heavenly venerate's heavenly annihilation energy was also blocked by the third demon sword. The 2 of them were evenly matched in this exchange. Third demon sword, your strength is only SOSO. Let's see how many of my moves you can block. Heavenly annihilation, heavenly punishment. The heavenly venerate roared. He held the long spear in his right hand and thrust it forward. This time, the heavenly annihilation energy was more condensed. It condensed into a spear light and pierced toward the third demon sword. In addition, his left hand burst out white lightning, exuding an extremely terrifying aura. This was the heavenly punishment energy. The heavenly venerate used 2 types of heavenly powers at the same time to launch a terrifying attack on the third demon sword. If my strength was not at its peak, I would definitely kill an old fellow like you. It's not like I haven't killed you before, the third demon sword said coldly. However, his expression was very solemn. As he had said, he had been sealed for so many years. Although he had swallowed a few broken swords brought by Lu Ming, his strength had not recovered to its peak. This heavenly venerate was extremely powerful, and he had no choice but to focus. He no longer cared about breaking through the void to escape. The third demon's sword raised its strength to the limit. Sword light flashed as it shot towards the Empyrean. The 2 strongest powerhouses began a battle of the peak. Boom! Boom! A huge explosion occurred in that area. The 2 of them continued to fight. In the blink of an eye, it was unknown how many moves they had exchanged. The heavenly venerates venerate. The spatial crack that had been torn open by the third devil's sword had automatically healed. Lu Ming furrowed his brows tightly, feeling somewhat anxious. Heavenly God. If the heavenly God won. Lu Ming had just thought of this when he saw a few rainbow lights flying toward him at high speed from afar. Heavenly God of. There were a total of 3 figures. All of them were heavenly venerate. The heavenly palace's heavenly venerate had arrived. They had most likely set off with the heavenly venerate. However, the heavenly venerate was too fast and had arrived first. The heavenly venerate had only just arrived. All of you attack. Kill the 9 divine dragons and that boy. The heavenly venerate's voice rang out. Yes. The heavenly venerate took the order and charged at Lu Ming and the others. Don't even think about it. The third demon's sword was shocked. He attacked with all his might, wanting to help. However, the heavenly venerate would not let him do as he wished. You should be careful of yourself. The heavenly venerate said coldly. The heavenly punishment and heavenly extermination powers were activated to a terrifying extent. They bombarded the third demon's sword, preventing him from attacking. The third demon's sword was not at his peak. He was slightly weaker than the heavenly venerate. If he attacked the heavenly venerate would definitely take the opportunity to severely injure him. Once he was injured, they would be in even more danger. He has the forbidden body, Lu Ming. If you kill him, you won't be able to get the forbidden power. The third demon sword roared. He had no other choice. Lu Ming was his junior sister's reincarnated husband. He could not watch as Lu Ming was killed. If Lu Ming was killed, his junior sister would not let him off. That was why he had shouted that Lu Ming had the forbidden body. He knew that the forbidden power was very important to the heavenly palace. If these people knew that Lu Ming had the forbidden body, they would not kill Lu Ming. At least, they would not kill Lu Ming for the time being. Sure enough, the Heavenly Venerate and the Heavenly Venerate were shocked when they heard the third demon sword's words. Forbidden body? Lu Ming? Isn't Lu Ming on the Dragon Clan's mother planet? I only know that the other forbidden body, Mu Yin, has been captured by our clan and locked in the heavenly prison. This person is not Lu Ming, it's Mu Yin. The Heavenly Venerate discussed quickly. For a moment they were confused. I know. Mu Yin is Lu Ming, and Lu Ming is Mu Yin. I was wondering how there could be so much forbidden power. Now it seems that we have been deceived, the Heavenly Venerate said coldly. After all, he had lived for countless years. He was cunning and meticulous. In an instant he had deduced many things. Lu Ming could not help but smile bitterly. Originally, the Heavenly Palace thought that Mu Yin and Lu Ming were two different people. The third demon sword's roar was tantamount to exposing his identity. However, he was now on the opposite side of the Heavenly Palace. It was a situation where he would fight to the death. Moreover, Autumn Moon had left the Heavenly Palace. Even if he was exposed, it did not matter. He had used the alias Mu Yin because he wanted to sneak into the Heavenly Palace. Now there was no need. Moreover, now was not the time to worry about the name. The three Heavenly Venerate Masters of the Heavenly Palace were about to arrive. Fight to the death! The 9 divine dragons shouted. Their faces were filled with determination. They had been enslaved for dozens of stellar years. Their hearts were filled with endless anger. Compared to being enslaved, they would rather die in battle. However, in the past, they could not die even if they wanted to. At this moment, they were fearless. They planned to fight to the death with the Heavenly Venerate Masters of the Heavenly Palace. Seniors of the Dragon Clan, why do you need to make such a pointless sacrifice? I have a way to deal with them. All of you, back off and stay away from me. Lu Ming shouted. Then he rushed forward toward the 3 Heavenly Venerate Masters of the Heavenly Palace. The 9 divine dragons were stunned. Not to mention them, even the 3rd demon sword and the Empyrean were taken aback. Lu Ming had taken the initiative to rush toward the 3 Heavenly Venerate Masters. Was he not walking into a trap? Could it be that he still had some trump cards in his hands? The 2 Heavenly Venerate Masters thought of this. Forbidden body, Lu Ming, suppress him. One of the Heavenly Venerate Masters shouted coldly. He stretched out a hand and grabbed at Lu Ming. Chapter 42-64. One of the divine masters attacked, and a huge palm grabbed at Lu Ming. The palm covered a radius of 1,000,000 miles, covering the sky and the sun. It contained terrifying power. Even if Lu Ming broke through to the God-Dharch realm, he would not be able to escape, let alone Lu Ming, who was only at the divine Emperor realm. However, Lu Ming did not intend to use his cultivation to resist. He took out the purple copper coffin. Now, he could only rely on the purple copper coffin. After taking out the purple copper coffin, Lu Ming pushed the coffin lid without hesitation. Kacha! The coffin lid was pushed open, and there was a gap. A terrifying aura was emitted from the gap. Kacha! Lu Ming continued to push with all his might. The gap in the coffin lid widened, and the horrifying aura became even more terrifying. Even the divine masters felt their hair stand on end, and they felt a chill in their hearts. What is this? One of the divine masters asked in a grave voice. Who cares what it is? He is only at the divine Emperor realm. What could he have? Suppress him. The divine master who had attacked earlier shouted and continued to attack. The huge palm continued to grab at Lu Ming. Roar! At this time, an earth-shattering roar came from the purple copper coffin. It was filled with an ancient aura and was extremely violent. Then, a palm stretched out from the purple copper coffin. It was a palm covered with scales. It grabbed one side of the purple copper coffin and pushed with all its might. The gap became bigger. Roar! The violent roar was heard again. The palm covered with scales stretched out and quickly became bigger. It grabbed at the Divine Master's palm. With a loud bang, the palm formed by the Divine Master shattered. The palm covered with scales did not stop and continued to grab at the Divine Master. This aura, it is the primordial Divine Spirit, the Divine Master exclaimed. He quickly took out a combat sword and gathered all his strength into it. He slashed out with all his might. The other two Divine Masters also attacked with all their might. 3 terrifying attacks slashed at the palm covered with scales and collided violently with the palm. Boom! Boom! With 3 consecutive explosions, the scale-covered palm was blocked. It quickly shrank and retreated. However, the attacks of the 3 Divine Masters were all destroyed, and their bodies were forced to retreat. In an instant, they had retreated hundreds of millions of miles. Their faces were pale, and blood spurted from their mouths. They had all suffered heavy injuries. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. As for the 9-peak Emperor God, Divine Dragons, they were dumbfounded. What was the purple copper coffin that Lu Ming took out? A palm could actually reach out from inside, and it was extremely powerful. It could severely injure 3 Divine Master Realm experts with a single move. Just then, the strong cultivator from the Heavenly Palace had shouted that it was a primitive, godly spirit. Could it be that there was a primitive, godly spirit sleeping in the copper coffin? Roar! At that moment, another roar came from within the purple copper coffin. This time, 2 arms stretched out from within the purple copper coffin. One arm grabbed the lid of the coffin, while the other grabbed the body of the coffin. With a push, the distance between the lid and the body of the coffin increased. Then, a figure stepped out of the purple copper coffin. This is... Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. This was the first time he had seen a living being step out of a purple copper coffin. In the past, it had only stretched out one arm. This living being was covered in scales and had a burly body. As soon as it stepped out of the purple copper coffin, it rapidly grew in size. In the end, it turned into an incomparably huge figure that stood between the heavens and the earth. It was even bigger than the stars. A primitive, godly spirit. The creature that had walked out of the purple copper coffin was clearly a primitive, godly spirit. This primitive, godly spirit's aura was too strong. It was as vast as an abyss and unfathomable. Just its aura alone was enough to make the void tremble. Its 2 eyes scanned the 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace. The 3 Heavenly Palace Divine Masters trembled. This is a master God-level, primitive, godly spirit. It can't be wrong. It really is a master God-level, primitive, godly spirit. Oh no, run. The 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace screamed in horror and frantically retreated. Judging by its aura, it was clearly a master God-level, primitive, godly spirit. This level of being was extremely terrifying. It was the true pinnacle of the primitive universe. It was at the same level as the Celestial Masters from the Heavenly Palace. This kind of being was not something they could deal with. If it used its full strength, it could kill them with a slap. In the face of such a being, they could only run. However, the primitive, godly spirit that had walked out of the purple copper coffin had already made his move. He took a step forward, and his huge body quickly approached the 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace. He slapped down. Rumble. A terrifying force surged toward the 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace. There was no other technique. There was only an extremely powerful and violent force. Extreme force. In the face of this force, the 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace had nowhere to run. No help. Celestial Master, help. Celestial Master, save us. The 3 Divine Masters from the Heavenly Palace cried for help in horror. However, at this moment, the 3rd demon sword had used its full strength to block the Celestial Master. Even if he wanted to save them, it was too late. Bang! 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 No matter how the three divine masters of the heavenly palace tried to resist, it was to no avail. When this force pressed down on them, their bodies exploded and their souls were annihilated. The three powerful divine masters were killed in an instant. Damn it! The celestial master roared. Kill! After killing the three divine masters, the primitive godly spirit in the purple copper coffin roared angrily. He glanced at the heavenly palace's celestial master with a strong murderous intent. Then the primitive godly spirit charged toward the celestial master. His huge fist was like a star as it blasted toward the heavenly palace's celestial master. The powerful force made the celestial master's face turn serious. He thrust out his long spear, and a heavenly extermination force pierced toward the primitive godly spirit. The two of them collided. Kill! 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 The primitive godly spirit in the purple copper coffin kept shouting. His murderous intent surged as he stepped forward and attacked the celestial master. His two fists punched out consecutively. At this moment, Lu Ming saw a strange scene. There was a silk thread at the back of the primitive godly spirit's head. The other end of the silk thread was connected to the purple copper coffin. This made Lu Ming very surprised. Why was the primitive godly spirit connected to a silk thread? It looked strange, as if it was being controlled by someone. At this moment, the primitive godly spirit was fighting with the celestial master. The third demon, sword, quickly retreated to Lu Ming's side. It did not join forces with the primitive godly spirit to fight the celestial master. The heavenly palace's celestial master was not easy to kill. Moreover, it was not the time to kill him. The first thing they needed to do was to leave this place. If they were delayed because of the battle with the celestial master, more experts from the heavenly palace would come, and it would be more troublesome. Chapter 42, 65. Buzz. Dazzling sword light burst out from the third demon's sword's hand as it continued to slash at the void, opening up the passage again. The battle between the primitive divine spirit and the celestial master of the heavenly palace was extremely intense. There was no doubt that this primitive divine spirit was at the level of a master god, which was at the same level as the celestial master of the heavenly palace. The two sides were locked in a fierce battle. Even if the other side wanted to stop the third demon's sword, it could not do so. In this way, the third demon's sword could attack with all its might, concentrating on breaking the void. Streaks of terrifying sword light slashed out continuously, causing the void to ripple like water. Soon a new crack was slashed out. Whoosh! Whoosh! The crack was expanding. A few minutes later, the crack had become extremely large. Fortunately, no other experts from the heavenly palace came during this process. Break for me. The third demon's sword roared as it slashed out a shocking sword light. The sword light slashed at the crack. The crack was quickly split open and penetrated. Wisps of starlight filled the air. A familiar aura also came through. It was the aura of the universe. It was broken. The third demon's sword finally tore the void at this weak point of the space and opened up a passage. Outside was the primitive universe. Let's go! The third demon's sword waved its hand and rushed toward the crack with Lu Ming and the 9 deities. The next moment, they appeared in the universe. That's right. Lu Ming took a deep breath. He had finally returned to the primitive universe. Due to Lu Ming's movement, he dragged the purple copper coffin. At the back of the primordial god's head, there was a silk thread that was connected to the purple copper coffin. At this moment, it was pulling the primordial god. The primordial god could not help but retreat continuously, being pulled in the direction of Lu Ming and the rest. Roar! The primitive divine spirit let out an unwilling roar. Its body rapidly shrank and finally turned into a rainbow light, rushing into the purple copper coffin and disappearing. With a clang, the lid of the purple copper coffin was closed again. The terrifying aura also disappeared without a trace. Don't even think about leaving. The celestial venerables from the heavenly palace shouted and rushed over. They wanted to rush through the spatial rift and continue to attack Lu Ming and the others. However, how could the third demon's sword allow him to succeed? Whoosh! The third demon's sword slashed out a shocking sword light. It passed through the crack and slashed towards the Empyrean. The Empyrean had no choice but to stop and block. As for the crack, it was rapidly recovering. The space here was extremely stable and difficult to break. Once it was broken, the recovery speed was astonishing. It was far from comparable to the ordinary space of the primitive universe. The third demon's sword continued to attack, blocking the heavenly palace on the other side. The crack was quickly mending and shrinking. In less than half a minute, the crack had completely disappeared. "Damn it! Damn it!" the celestial lord in the heavenly palace roared. Even though he had lived for countless years, he was still incomparably irritable. This time, not only had the third demon's sword escaped, but the forbidden body had also escaped. Both of these were very important. The third demon's sword was very powerful. At its peak, it could kill existences of the same level. The forbidden body was even more important. Once it grew up, it would be a great enemy of the heavenly palace. Another reason was that it was even more disadvantageous for the heavenly palace. However, both of them had managed to escape right under his nose. Also, what exactly is that copper coffin? It is definitely not as simple as a primitive divine spirit. There is a familiar aura in it. The celestial lord in the heavenly palace fell into deep thought. His face became more and more solemn. He did not continue to pursue. Instead, he left in a flash and went to discuss with the other experts in the heavenly palace. On the other side, the third demon's sword did not stop. It took Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons and flew quickly in a direction. "Everyone from the Sky Heart clan, I am sorry this time. However, I swear that one day I will open the heavenly palace's celestial prison and let you out." Lu Ming looked in the direction of the celestial prison and swore in his heart. Due to the special situation this time, they could only leave first. However, he would remember the kindness of the Sky Heart clan. In the future, he would try his best to find a way to save the people of the Sky Heart clan. "Senior, where are we going next?" After adjusting his mood, Lu Ming asked the third demon's sword. "Don't call me Senior. Since you are Junior sister's husband, we are of the same generation. You can call me Third Senior Brother, the third demon's sword path." "Third Senior Brother," Lu Ming added. "Now, I will take you to the cosmic ruins. Other than there, no other place is safe. The third demon's sword path." Cosmic ruins? What is that place? Lu Ming was puzzled. This was not the first time he had heard of this name. Previously, Fei Huang and Ao Qian took the primordial divine lake and the dragon clan's mother planet to the cosmic ruins. Therefore, he was very curious about the cosmic ruins. You should know from the name that it is a ruin. However, it is not a ruin left behind by this era. It is a ruin left behind by the previous era, the third demon's sword said. "Previous era? What do you mean?" The more Lu Ming listened, the more puzzled he became. The word era involved a lot of things. Lu Ming couldn't understand it. Everything in this world will change and have a lifespan. No matter how strong one's cultivation base is, there will be a day when they will fall. Even the primitive universe will wither and end one day. The primitive universe we are in now has withered and ended once. It experienced destruction and was born again. This is called an era. The era before the destruction is called the previous era. The current primitive universe is the new era. The cosmic ruins are the ruins left behind by the previous era. The third demon, sword explained. What? Lu Ming gawked and tongue-tied. The time and era involved in this matter were simply too long ago. The primitive universe had two eras. One was the incipient God era, and the other was the Heavenly Palace era. The incipient God era was formed after the universe was created. Apparently, the previous era was much older and more ancient than the incipient God era. According to the information we have, the area of the universe in the previous era was much bigger than the current primitive universe. However, no one knows why, but at the end of the previous era, it experienced a world-destroying war. That world was blown up, heading toward the end of the world. All the creatures were killed and disappeared. Then, after a new evolution, it evolved into the current untainted universe. However, only a part of it has evolved into the current untainted universe. A larger part of it is still in ruins. There, you can still feel the traces left by the destructive war of the last era. The third demon, Sword explained. Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons were bewildered. It was the first time they had heard about this. It seemed like this world had many secrets that they didn't know. Chapter 42, 66. The third demon's sword's speed was too fast. In just a short while, he had already led Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons across an unknown number of galaxies. They were already far away from the Heavenly Palace's prison. At this time, even if the other party wanted to pursue them, they would not be able to find them. At this time, the third demon's sword stopped with Lu Ming. Look! After stopping, the third demon's sword waved his hand, and a 3-dimensional picture appeared in the void. In a corner of this picture, there were specks of starlight that looked very dazzling. Apart from this corner, the other areas were all gray and hazy. It could be seen that the places with starlight only occupied about 1% of the volume. The gray areas occupied 99% of the volume. This is the map of the current primitive universe and the universe ruins. The places with starlight are the current primitive universe, and the gray areas are the universe ruins. The third demon, Sword said. Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons were dumbfounded. The universe ruins are so big. Lu Ming asked tongue-tied. Yes, in fact, the universe ruins and the current primitive universe are the total area of the entire universe. The current primitive universe only occupies 1% of the area. The other 99% are all universe ruins. That is to say, the universe of the last era was truly vast and boundless. It was 100 times larger than the current untainted universe. According to the information we have now, the universe of the last era did not use planets as a unit of measurement like the present one. At that time, there was only one continent in the entire universe, and it was called the Great Desolation Continent. It was a huge and boundless continent, and there were countless creatures living on it. Later on, there was a world-shaking war, and the vast and boundless continent was destroyed, turning into countless small continents that drifted to various places in the universe. Some of the continents evolved into different planets and gave birth to a new era, which is the current primitive universe. But most of the territories did not evolve. They still maintain the appearance of the last era, which is the current universe ruins. The third demon, Sword continued to explain. Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons were completely dumbfounded. The amount of information was so huge that it subverted their worldview. They needed time to digest it slowly. In the universe of the previous epoch, there was only one continent called the prehistoric continent. Then, the prehistoric continent was blown apart and turned into fragments. A small portion of the fragments evolved into planets, which were the current prehistoric universe. The countless planets in the primitive universe were actually evolved from some of the fragments of the primitive continent, and it only occupied 1% of the total area. How big was the primitive continent of the last era? It was beyond the limit of their imagination. After a long while, Lu Ming and the other divine dragons reacted. According to the exploration of the predecessors, the last era was the real golden age of cultivation. There were countless experts like the sand of the Ganges. Naturally, there were also countless treasures left behind which attracted countless top experts to explore. Of course, the universe ruins are also very dangerous. I won't tell you the details. You can understand it in detail when you arrive at the universe ruins. Let's continue our journey. After saying that, the third demon sword waved his hand again. A wave of energy swept up Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons and took them to continue flying towards the universe ruins. By the way, Lu Ming, the copper coffin you took out before seemed to be very extraordinary. I couldn't see through it. How did you get it? The third demon's sword asked as they flew. He was very curious about the copper coffin. I got it in an ancient place. I don't know its origin. I guess it's the coffin of a primitive divine spirit, the one who attacked us before, Lu Ming said. No. The third demon's sword shook his head and said, I don't think it's that simple. You should have noticed that there was a thread behind the primitive divine spirit. It seemed to be controlled. It's very strange. The third demon's sword frowned and fell into deep thought. After a while he said, In short, I feel that this copper coffin is very extraordinary. I can't see through it. You have to keep it well. It may be of great use in the future. Okay, Lu Ming nodded. Of course. He would keep the purple copper coffin. Ever since he obtained the purple copper coffin, it had saved his life many times. Of course, he would keep it well. Lu Ming, tell me about you and Junior Sister. Where did she reincarnate to? How did you meet? Junior Sister used to be very arrogant. How did she fall in love with you? If you don't want others to hear, you can send me a message. The third demon's sword changed the topic from the copper coffin to Lu Ming and Xianyanqing. The word gossip was written in his eyes. Lu Ming was speechless. In the end, Lu Ming told the story of him and Xianyanqing. The third demon's sword was filled with emotion. He said that Lu Ming and Xianyanqing were young, but they had experienced a lot. According to what you said, I guess Junior Sister should be cultivating in the ruins of the universe. There are some unique cultivation conditions in the ruins of the universe, and her progress will be very fast. The third demon's sword path. So, we can go to the ruins of the universe and see Shao Qing? Lu Ming was overjoyed. He didn't expect that the information about Xianyanqing that he couldn't find would come from the mouth of the third demon's sword. I'm not sure. I can only say that it's very likely. Anyway, we'll know when we get there. The third demon's sword path. The third demon's sword's speed was too fast. As time passed, the third demon's sword seemed to be slowly recovering, becoming stronger and faster. 2 days later, they had crossed an unknown number of galaxies and star fields. Gradually, the starry sky became desolate. Previously, they could see a planet with a casual flight. Later, they often flew a long distance and couldn't see a planet. Later, it was simply pitch black. There was nothing. There were no life planets, resource planets, or even stars. The void fell into darkness. The third demon's sword told them that they had reached the edge of the current primitive universe. After a while, they would reach the ruins of the universe. Sure enough, not long after, the void lit up again. Then Lu Ming and the 9 divine dragons opened their eyes. They saw several huge continents floating in the void. These continents were very vast, no smaller than a life planet. Moreover, the continents themselves were emitting traces of light. Chapter 42:67. The light they saw was emitted by these continents. They flew closer and saw that the continents were barren. There seemed to be no living creatures. Apart from a few special life forms, there are almost no other life forms in the entire universe ruins. Moreover, there are no planets in the universe ruins. There are only fragments of continents. These few fragments are still considered small. Some of them are boundless hundreds or even thousands of times larger than this. Let's continue moving forward. Our people are still deeper in. The third demon's sword path. Third senior brother, Who do you mean by our people? Lu Ming asked. The 9 divine dragons were also curious. However, the 9 divine dragons were only at the celestial Darch realm. In front of the 3rd demon sword, they were juniors among juniors. Although they had doubts in their hearts, they did not dare to ask. Now that Lu Ming asked them, they immediately pricked up their ears to listen. Now, the Heavenly Palace has occupied the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace is the ruler of the primitive universe. Our people naturally refers to those who oppose the Heavenly Palace and fight against the Heavenly Palace. We call ourselves the Heaven Destroyer. Back then we were defeated. We were no match for the Heavenly Palace, so we retreated to this place and used its geographical location as a defense. The 3rd demon soared past. They did not stop. They chatted as they flew. They could see continents passing by them one after another. Lu Ming also found that the void here was filled with a special energy. This energy gave off a very ancient feeling. It was different from divine qi, but it could also be absorbed and refined. However, it was not as easy to refine as divine qi. It would take more time. In the blink of an eye, another few hours passed. We're almost there. The 3rd demon sword's eyes lit up. He was obviously very excited. He had been suppressed by the Heavenly Palace for a long time, at least dozens of stellar years. Now that he was finally back, it would be strange if he was not excited. Lu Ming also looked ahead. There were many continents floating in the void in front of them. At a glance, there were no less than 100 continents. The area of each continent was not smaller than a planet in the primitive universe. Some of them were even larger. These continents were not arranged randomly. They seemed to be arranged according to a certain rule. Moreover, there was an incomparably huge ancient tree on each continent. These ancient trees were so huge that they extended into the void like the world tree. They could be seen even from afar. There was an ancient tree on each continent. These ancient trees were emitting green light and resonating with each other to form a huge array. Is Xiaoqing here? Lu Ming was also looking forward to it. Ever since Xia Nianqing left, they hadn't seen each other for many years. He had been working on his cultivation and he had been wanting to see Xia Nianqing. Were they finally going to see each other? No, our people are not in this place, but in several places. This way, we can take care of each other and avoid the situation of being wiped out by the Heavenly Palace. The Tang family's forces are still deeper in the universe ruins. 3rd demon, Sword explained. Oh, let's go. Lu Ming couldn't wait. But the next moment, Lu Ming's eyes suddenly widened. This was because, in another direction, he actually saw a planet, an incomparably huge planet. There were no planets in the universe ruins. How could there be a planet here? It was many times bigger than ordinary planets. This is the dragon's mother planet. Lu Ming exclaimed. Yes, he was too familiar with the aura of this planet. It was the dragon's mother planet. Lu Ming didn't expect to see the dragon's mother planet here. Immediately, he saw another strange thing near the dragon clan's home planet. Yes, it looked like a ball from afar. A hazy light shroud enveloped the entire world. That was the primordial divine lake world. The dragon's mother planet and the primordial divine lake world. Lu Ming smiled. Ao Qian and Fei Huang said that they would push the dragon's mother planet and the primordial divine lake world to the universe ruins. 3rd senior brother, let's set off later. I'm going to meet some acquaintances. Lu Ming said. Although he wanted to see Xia Nianqing immediately, Mid-Autumn Moon, Pantheon, and his past self were all in the primordial divine lake world. They were in seclusion. If they knew that he was captured by the Heavenly Palace after coming out, how worried would they be? So, it wouldn't be too late to meet Xia Nianqing after seeing Mid-Autumn Moon and the others. Well, I also have some acquaintances here. It won't be too late to set off in a few days. Are you going back to the dragon's mother planet? The 3rd demon, Sword, nodded. The last sentence was directed at the 9 divine dragons. At this moment, the 9 divine dragons' eyes were completely fixed on the dragons, mother planet. At this moment, the eyes of the 9 peak emperor god divine dragons were brimming with tears. Their bodies were trembling, slightly due to excitement. The dragons' mother planet was their hometown. They had been enslaved by the heavenly palace for dozens of stellar years. Now, they finally saw their hometown. Senior, we're going back to the dragons' mother planet. One of the divine dragons nodded. Go. The 3rd demon, Sword, waved his hand. Immediately, the 9 divine dragons thanked the 3rd demon Sword and flew toward the dragons' mother planet. When they flew into the dragon races' mother planet, they disappeared. The 10,000 dragons, Seal, outside the dragon races' mother planet did not stop them. Lu Ming also revealed a smile. With the addition of 9 divine dragons at the peak of the God Emperor realm, the dragon clan's strength would recover even faster. Lu Ming, go. I'm going to meet an old friend. The 3rd demon Sword stepped out and flew toward the group of continents. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Lu Ming, on the other hand, flew toward the primordial divine lake world. The primordial divine lake world was shrouded in a light shield. This was the world wall, but now several parts of the world wall were open. Lu Ming flew over. There were people guarding the door, but he could see people coming and going. Some people flew in and some flew out. Lu Ming guessed that the living beings of the primordial divine lake world and the group of continents should be interacting with each other. Lu Ming flew over and entered the primordial divine lake without any inspection. After all, the people of the heavenly palace could not mix in here, and the people here were his own people. I wonder if Autumn Moon and the others have come out of seclusion. Let's go to the primordial divine lake first. Lu Ming flew toward the primordial divine lake to see if Autumn Moon and the others had come out of seclusion. Lu Ming had just approached the shore of the primordial divine lake when he heard a roar. Damn the heavenly palace! How dare you kidnap my brother? I'll flatten the heavenly palace sooner or later. The voice was filled with anger. Lu Ming knew it was the voice of the myriad deities. From the tone, it seems like the myriad deities just learned about me. Did they just come out of seclusion? Lu Ming guessed. Chapter 42:68. Lu Ming's guess was right. At this moment, Chiu Autumn Moon, myriad god, and his past body had just come out of seclusion. The moment they came out, they learned that Lu Ming's present body had been captured. They were instantly enraged, and myriad god let out an angry roar. On the side, Chiu Autumn Moon and his past body had ugly expressions. Young master, will your present body be all right? Chiu Autumn Moon asked Lu Ming's past body, her eyes filled with worry. After all, whether it was his past body or present body, it was still Lu Ming. How could she not be worried? Don't worry. I can sense that my present body should be fine. If my present body had fallen, I would be able to sense that he is still alive, Lu Ming's past body said. This made Chiu Autumn Moon and myriad god heave a sigh of relief. At this moment, the expression of Lu Ming's past body suddenly changed, revealing a look of pleasant surprise. I can sense that my present body is very close to this place. It's already nearby. What? On the side, Chiu Autumn Moon, myriad god, and the others from primordial divine lake were stunned. Lu Ming's present body had arrived and was not far from here? No way. Wasn't Lu Ming's present body captured by the heavenly palace? It was almost impossible to escape after being captured by the heavenly palace. How could Lu Ming's present body appear nearby? Chiu Autumn Moon, myriad god, and the others were dumbfounded. As for his past body, he had already looked in a certain direction. Although his past body and present body could not communicate telepathically, they could still sense each other. As long as they were within a certain distance, They could sense each other. At this moment, Lu Ming's present body was walking through the air, his gaze meeting with his present body. Ha ha ha, as expected of me, Lu Ming. No matter what kind of danger you encounter, you can always escape successfully. Lu Ming's past body laughed heartily, looking smug. Chiu Autumn Moon, Myriad God, and the others also looked in the direction of Lu Ming's present body. Their eyes were filled with pleasant surprise. Young master, Chiu Autumn Moon hurriedly flew towards his present body. Myriad God, his past body, and the others from Primordial Divine Lake also flew towards Lu Ming. Young master, we just came out of seclusion when we heard that you were captured by the Heavenly Palace. Are you all right? How did you get out? Chiu Yu sized Lu Ming up and asked a few questions. The myriad deities and his past body also revealed looks of curiosity. It's like this. Immediately, Lu Ming gave a brief account of what had happened. They were secretly amazed. They hadn't thought that Lu Ming would experience so many things in just a few hundred years after being captured by the Heavenly Palace. At the same time, Lu Ming was also looking at Chiu Autumn Moon, Myriad God, and his past body. He was surprised. The cultivation of these three people had skyrocketed. Needless to say, Myriad God's cultivation was even more unfathomable. Chiu Autumn Moon's cultivation had also broken through a few layers. She was definitely above the third great Supreme God layer. Lu Ming guessed that Chiu Moon had most likely reached the fourth great Supreme God layer. A few hundred years ago, Chiu Moon's cultivation was only at the first great Supreme God layer. It could be seen how fast Chiu Autumn Moon had progressed in the past few hundred years. In a few hundred years, she had advanced by 3 layers. This speed was simply unheard of. However, Chiu Autumn Moon's improvement wasn't the greatest. The greatest improvement was his past body. Before entering Primordial Divine Lake, his past body was only at the 7th Godly Emperor layer. Now, not only had he broken through the Great Supreme God layer, but he had also reached the 3rd Great Supreme God layer. This breakthrough was simply terrifying. One could imagine how much the eggshell and egg white left by the Primordial Divine Spirit had helped them. Lu Ming was really happy. Myriad God was his friend, Chiu Autumn Moon was his woman, and his past body was himself. The stronger they were, the better. Unfortunately, my cultivation hasn't broken through yet. How can I break through? Lu Ming's present body sighed in his heart. He had encountered a huge bottleneck. He had tried his best, but he still couldn't break through this bottleneck. This gave him a headache. It seems like I have to go and ask Senior Fei Huang. Senior Fei Huang should be on the Dragon Clan's mother planet, right? Lu Ming thought. They chatted for a while. Lu Ming's present body said that he wanted to go to the Dragon Clan's mother planet to ask Fei Huang some questions. Follow me, the past body said, and then stepped out, heading towards the Dragon Clan's mother planet. Needless to say, the present body understood the meaning of the past body. The past body was very familiar with the Dragon Clan's mother planet. If he wanted to find Fei Huang, he naturally needed the past body to lead the way. Soon, they entered the Dragon Clan's mother planet and headed in a direction. Soon, they came to a lake. The lake wasn't big, but the lake water was as clear as a mirror. There were lotuses growing on the lake. These lotuses were very large. Some of them were several meters in diameter. On one of the lotuses, there was a figure sitting cross-legged, like an otherworldly fairy. This person was Fei Huang. Is it the real body or the soul incarnation? It should be the soul incarnation. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. At this moment, Fei Huang opened her eyes and smiled. Lu Ming, you're here. She didn't seem surprised to see Lu Ming's present body. It seemed that Lu Ming being able to escape from the Heavenly Palace was within her expectations. Lu Ming was lucky to escape. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, "Tell me, how did you escape?" Fei Huang asked with a smile. It's like this, Lu Ming told her what had happened. So it's the third demon sword. That boy was suppressed by the heavenly palace for dozens of years. I hope he can control his temper. Then she looked at Lu Ming and said, You must have many questions for me this time, right? Yes, Senior Fei Huang. After I reached the top of the 9th Godly Emperor layer, I encountered a bottleneck. I tried many times, but I couldn't break through. I don't know why. Senior, please tell me. Lu Ming said, Taboo body. It's indeed hard to break through the limit of the divine emperor realm because the experience of others is useless. You can only rely on yourself. However, it's not too difficult for a divine emperor to break through to the divine emperor realm. Let me have a look. Fei Huang got up, stepped into the air, and landed beside Lu Ming's present body. With a wave of her hand, a beam of energy enveloped Lu Ming. Then, Fei Huang's eyes emitted a dazzling glow, as if she wanted to see through Lu Ming. With one look, a trace of fluctuation appeared on Fei Huang's originally calm face. Boy, you've cultivated so many ancient secret skills. Fei Huang looked at Lu Ming speechlessly. Is there a problem with cultivating ancient secret skills? Didn't you say that the more ancient secret skills I cultivate, the better it will be for me in the future? Lu Ming said. He had a bad feeling. Yes, the more forbidden body you cultivate, the better it will be for you. However, you've cultivated too many, said Fei Huang. Lu Ming. Chapter 42-69. Lu Ming was speechless. Weren't you the one who said that the more secret techniques one cultivated, the better? Why are you blaming me for cultivating too many now? Lu Ming was full of resentment. Yes, the forbidden body. The more secret techniques one cultivates, the better. The more secret techniques one cultivates, the stronger the power of the forbidden force will be. Moreover, it can be used as a reference in the future, and it will be easier for one to walk their own path. However, I never expected that you would be able to find so many ancient secret techniques. You have already mastered more than half of them. Fei Huang was speechless. How did she know that Lu Ming was so abnormal that he could find so many ancient secret techniques? Many ancient secret techniques had been lost. It was difficult to find even one. But Lu Ming had found more than 1,800 of them. Fei Huang expressed that she was also very helpless. Senior Fei Huang, since things have come to this, how can I break through? Lu Ming asked helplessly. If you want to break through now, there's only one way, and that is to rely on yourself. Fei Huang said. Lu Ming was speechless. What you need to do now is to use the existing secret techniques as your foundation and create your own unique secret technique. Then, with this secret technique, you can break through the current bottleneck and break through to the divine emperor realm. Fei Huang said, Create my own path and create my own secret technique? Lu Ming muttered, That's right. According to my original estimation, you would need to reach peak Emperor God at the very least and break through to the divine master realm before you need to take this step. However, because you have mastered too many secret skills and ancient secret skills, this process has been brought forward by an entire realm. However, once you've created your own path, your combat strength will skyrocket and you'll gain a lot. Fei Huang said, Senior, thank you for your guidance. I'll definitely do it, Lu Ming said with a determined gaze. He had enough confidence in himself. Moreover, he had the primordial God stone. Back then, the Lord of the primordial divine court relied on the primordial God stone to create 3,000 ancient secret techniques. This showed how mysterious the primordial God stone was. By relying on the primeval God stone and the secret arts he had mastered, it shouldn't be too difficult for him to forge his own path, right? Don't be too confident. If you want to walk your own path, the difficulty will be beyond your imagination. For example, I have already forgotten all the secret techniques that I have mastered in the past. I only have my own path in my heart, Fei Huang warned seriously. Lu Ming's heart shook. If he wanted to walk his own path, did he need to forget all the secret techniques? He had mastered more than 1,800 ancient secret techniques and tens of thousands of ordinary secret techniques. It would be too difficult for him to forget all of them. As if seeing Lu Ming's worry, Fei Huang continued, "Of course, you don't have to worry too much. When you first start walking your own path, you don't have to forget all your secret techniques. Only when you reach the later stages will you have to forget all your secret techniques. Only when you have your own Tao and your own path will you be able to reach the grand accomplishment stage." Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. "All right, regarding the matter of cultivation, just proceed in this direction. Do you have any other questions?" Fei Huang said, "Senior Fei Huang, I want to know why the people here, I mean all of you, want to go against the Heavenly Palace." Lu Ming asked. He had always been curious about this question. Why were there so many people who wanted to become the Heavenly Palace's archenemy, as if they would not rest until one of them was dead? Was it because the Heavenly Palace ruled the universe domineeringly and the other weaker races wanted to resist? Lu Ming felt that the reason was not that simple. "I knew that you would ask this question," Fei Huang said. Then she pondered for a while as if she was thinking about how to phrase it. In the primitive universe, the original races and forces were far more than what they are now. Let's not talk about other things. Let's talk about the top 10 races. In the distant past, the top 10 races were not like what they are now. The top 10 races have changed several times. Do you know why those powerful races disappeared? Fei Huang asked. Could it be that they were destroyed by the Heavenly Palace? Lu Ming said. He thought of the Sky Heart race. That's right. Fei Huang nodded. Why does the Heavenly Palace want to destroy these races? Is it because they are afraid that these races are too strong and will threaten the Heavenly Palace's rule? Or are these races not willing to submit to the Heavenly Palace's rule? Lu Ming asked. No. Let me tell you, the Heavenly Palace's strength is much stronger than you think. No matter how strong these races are, they will not be able to threaten the Heavenly Palace's rule. As for not submitting to the Heavenly Palace's rule, there is one reason. But that is not the main reason. The main reason is that the Heavenly Palace wants to extract the bloodline of these races to refine some kind of treasure. Fei Huang said. What? Lu Ming was shocked. This was shocking news, far beyond Lu Ming's imagination. The Heavenly Palace wants to refine some kind of treasure or cultivate some kind of skill. They need the bloodline of a powerful race, and not just one or two bloodlines, but almost the entire race's bloodline. Therefore, the Heavenly Palace usually encourages the races in the universe to compete with each other. Only through competition can they grow. This is like raising poisonous insects. When a race grows to an extremely strong level, it is time to harvest. The Heavenly Palace will find a reason to kill most of the living beings of this race and extract their bloodline. In the end, the races in the universe are just the Heavenly Palace's captive prey. That is why so many people resist the Heavenly Palace and want to overthrow the Heavenly Palace. From the beginning, the Heavenly Palace, the archaic celestial court, to me, your father-in-law, we have all discovered the Heavenly Palace's secret. That is why we want to overthrow the Heavenly Palace. Only by overthrowing the Heavenly Palace can we save the races in the universe. Fei Huang explained in more detail. Lu Ming's heart was in turmoil, and he couldn't calm down. He never thought that there would be so many secrets behind this. The Heavenly Palace's methods could be said to be extremely cruel. Why did they have to sacrifice one powerful race after another in order to cultivate some kind of treasure or skill? This kind of method made one's hair stand on end. Perhaps the Sky Heart race and the Dragon race were exterminated because of this. The Heavenly Palace was the real cancer in the universe. After a long while, Lu Ming finally calmed down. Senior, why do you say that the taboo body is the natural enemy of the Heavenly Palace? Could it be that the treasure that the Heavenly Palace wants to refine needs the taboo power? Lu Ming asked. He couldn't help but think this way because the Heavenly Palace's experts had captured him and wanted to extract the taboo power. No. Fei Huang shook her head and said, that's because as the power of the taboo grows stronger and stronger, it will oppress the Celestial Palace. It will make the people of the Celestial Palace grow weaker and weaker. Thus, the taboo bodies and the Celestial Palace are mortal enemies. Lu Ming was stunned. There was actually such a thing. Why was that? Lu Ming immediately asked. This time, Fei Huang was silent. Chapter 4270. Fei Huang was silent for a while before she said, Lu Ming, this matter involves a very deep secret. It even involves the ruins of the universe and the matters of the previous era. Telling you now will do more harm than good. How about this? When your cultivation reaches the Divine Master Realm, I'll tell you everything. Reach the Divine Master Realm? Lu Ming said. His heart was itching. He could not wait to know all the secrets immediately. Yes, because there are some things that only the Divine Master Realm is qualified to participate in. Take the ruins of the universe, for example. We're only at the edge of the ruins now, so there's not much danger. If you want to explore the ruins of the universe and head to the depths of the ruins, you'll need at least the Divine Master Realm cultivation. It's the same principle. Fei Huang said. Lu Ming was helpless and could only suppress his doubts. When he reached the Divine Master Realm, he would naturally know. Senior, do you know where Shaoqing is? Lu Ming asked. Anyway, when he met Fei Huang, he would ask where Xian Yinqing was. Fei Huang would most likely know. Some of the doubts in his heart had been resolved. He couldn't wait to see Xian Yinqing. Shaoqing is cultivating somewhere in the ruins of the universe. If you want to find her, take this map. Fei Huang nodded and waved her hand. A map flew to Lu Ming's present body and was caught by Lu Ming's present body. Lu Ming injected forbidden energy. The jade talisman glowed and a map appeared. In one area of the map, there was light, while the other areas were dark. This lit-up area is relatively safe. Anyone below the Divine Master Realm can go there. It's about the size of the entire primitive universe. Those dark areas are extremely dangerous. Without the cultivation of the Divine Master Realm, one should never go there. Shaoqing's location is here. After Fei Huang finished speaking, she stretched out her finger and pointed at a spot on the map. A dot of light appeared there. Although the ruins of the universe are dangerous, there are also opportunities. This place is very suitable for Shaoqing to cultivate. Previously, Shaoqing brought some people here to cultivate. You can follow the map and find him. Oh, right, take back your things. After saying that, Fei Huang waved her hand and a pitch-black skeleton flew out. Beside the pitch-black skeleton was a metal ball. Lu Ming, you're back. The metal ball cried out excitedly. Who else could it be but Qiu? That pitch-black skeleton was naturally Bone Devil. Bone Demon and Qiu had always been by the side of the present body, so when they saw two Lu Ming, they naturally flew towards the present body. Qiu flew to the present body and spun around Lu Ming excitedly. As for the Bone Devil, it flew directly into Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. Ha ha ha! This old man knew that you would be fine. I'll return all your belongings to you. Bone Devil laughed, and one item after another flew out. First was the battle character formula, which returned to Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. Then it was the mysterious ice rod, the Gale Pearl, and the storage ring. They're all back. Lu Ming revealed a look of joy. With these belongings, it was equivalent to having a lot of trump cards. He would be more confident. All right, I've told you everything that needs to be told. Go and find Shaoqing. After not seeing you for so many years, she also misses you very much. Fei Huang said and waved her hand gently. The past and present bodies clasped their fists and bid farewell before leaving. Somewhere in the void of the dragon race's mother planet, the past and present bodies stood facing each other. They looked at each other and nodded silently. Then the past body emitted a dazzling light and rushed towards Lu Ming. Then it directly rushed into Lu Ming's body and disappeared. In the next moment, the past body appeared in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. Under the feet of the past body, there was a bowl-shaped object floating. This was clearly a primordial god's eggshell. The past body sat cross-legged in the eggshell, closed its eyes, and silently comprehended various origin secret techniques. Now, Lu Ming's identity had been exposed. It was time for the two bodies to act together. Although it was risky for the two bodies to act together, both bodies would be in danger if they encountered danger. However, there were more benefits. First of all, the two bodies together were stronger, had more adaptable methods, and had more trump cards. In addition, when they obtained some opportunities, both bodies could use them. For example, previously the current body acted alone, or some opportunities that the past body could use would be wasted. Therefore, Lu Ming decided that if it was not necessary in the future, the two bodies would act together. In that case, the two bodies could switch at will. For example, if he restrained his aura now and emitted the aura of his past body, others would know that he was Lu Ming. At least if he met his relatives or acquaintances, others would not mistake him. Just like Mid-Autumn Moon and the myriad gods, didn't they recognize him wrongly? After the past body entered his sea of consciousness, Lu Ming took out the map of the universe ruins and looked at it carefully. Then, after sending a message to Mid-Autumn Moon and the myriad gods, Lu Ming flew in a direction according to the map. The universe ruins were very vast. Just the area marked on the map that they could explore was equivalent to the size of the current primitive universe. As for the dragon race's homeworld, it was quite a distance away from where Xia Nianqing cultivated. If Lu Ming flew at full speed, it might take him a month or so. As he flew, he jumped over floating continents one after another. Although there were some plants growing on these continents, there were almost no animals. They looked dead silent. Of course, Lu Ming also perked up and didn't dare be careless. After all, this was the universe ruins. Just like that, Lu Ming flew for nearly a month. It should be near this area. Lu Ming took out the map again and looked at it. Then he continued to fly for a while. In front of him, a continent appeared. This continent was very huge. Its area was about 5 times the size of an ordinary life planet. Moreover, from afar it was pitch black. This is demonic qi. What a dense demonic qi. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The continent in front of him was filled with dense demonic qi. The dense demonic qi spread from the continent to the void. There's no mistake. This should be it. This place is suitable for Shao Qing to cultivate. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He then stepped out and dashed toward the mainland. Whoosh whoosh. As soon as he rushed into the continent, a hurricane formed by the dense demonic qi swept towards Lu Ming. It was extremely violent. Lu Ming waved his hand and a palm blade flew out, splitting the hurricane. However, more hurricanes swept towards Lu Ming. The hurricane in the sky above this continent is really strong. It's better to fly lower a little. Lu Ming thought and swooped down towards the continent. Sure enough, when he descended to a certain height, the hurricane suddenly disappeared and calmness was restored. There was only dense demonic qi left. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.